When he's done, you can send him in here. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the workshop. Super stoked to have everybody here. What's going on? JMC, Marco, Brian, everybody else. Love it. So excited for you guys. Edward, what's going on? If somebody can just pop right into the chat that you can hear me A-okay, that you can see me A-okay, that would be awesome. Love it. Beautiful. Sweet. Dig it. Joshua, beautiful. Okay. So let me do this. I'm going to bring up my screen. We are going to rock and roll. And so you guys and gals are in for an incredible treat. And so let me see here. And so let me just do this and make sure, since I'm riding solo on the controls. So you guys can see the virtual whiteboard right now, correct? Yes, perfect. Okay. So let me do this. Awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So let me officially welcome you guys to this long-awaited, long-anticipated workshop. The first time in 2 decades that I've dedicated a workshop just to copywriting. And so I'm extremely excited for you guys and gals. I'm extremely excited for the material that we're going to be covering and what this is going to do for you, how this is going to change your marketing, change your thinking, change your perspective, and most importantly, change your results. Now, I want to start with this. Buckle up. And what I mean by that is I want you to get prepared to get flooded with guidance, with information, with tactics, with strategies, with thinking, because we are going to be covering a tremendous amount of material over the next 2 days. In fact, I would say that almost every slide, and I'm going to talk about this in just a second, almost every slide is worthy of pondering and really worthy of you thinking about after this workshop and thinking about what you're going to do with it and how you're going to implement it and all of that. And so get ready, get prepared. I highly encourage you to turn everything off that would distract you, because you're not going to want to miss anything that I share with you. Now, I want to make an assumption, or really, I should really share that this is my perspective going into this workshop. And I want you to really get this and understand what it is that I'm about to say. And that is this, that my assumption is that you're here because you want the hard-hitting truth about what it takes to craft a marketing message that converts. I'm not here to tell you the things that maybe you want to hear. I'm not here to talk about the things that maybe are fun or cool or feel cool or are trendy. I'm here to tell you what to do in your copy to produce results. Some of the stuff that we're going to talk about requires work. It requires effort. It requires thinking. The idea that there is a singular formula that you can just plug in some words and it's going to produce an extreme amount of sales for you is ridiculous. Yes, I will say this. There will come a time when AI, I believe, is my boy, let me see, our chief technology officer, the wizard of all things automation and integration, Teddy Garcia, is with us. And Teddy is a huge fan of AI. I'll tell you that there will come a time, I believe, when AI will be able to do some great copy. That time ain't now, nor will it be any time in the immediate future. Yes, AI will produce usable copy. But what we are here to talk about is copy that produces extreme results, copy that you can use in front-end campaigns to market to cold prospects, to move them to buy in mass. And so I'm sharing that with you because I want you to understand that that I'm going to say it like it is. I'm going to tell you like it is, and I'm going to give you the stuff that works regardless of the regardless of the work or effort involved in using it. The other thing that you're going to notice about this workshop, and then we're going to go into some housekeeping. I'm going to give you an overview of the agenda, and then we're just going to rock and roll, man. We're going to hit it and hit it hard. Excuse me. And so what you're going to find in this workshop is that we're not going to be spending a significant amount of time or even much time talking about marketing strategy. This is a very tactical workshop. This is a very kind of in the weeds, nitty gritty details workshop. And so what you're going to find is you're going to find a lot of tactical things that you can implement. And so when I talk about, let's say tomorrow, when I get into headlines or when I get into word choice or sentence structure, things like that, you're going to find that when I talk about headlines, I'm not going to give you this all-encompassing training on headlines. We're certainly not going to be talking about plug and play templates or any of that nonsense. But so we're not going to be spending a whole lot of time talking about strategy. The strategic design or engineering of marketing is a completely separate conversation or a completely separate training, which could also legitimately be done over multiple days. This is really about copy, the words that you use, where you use those words, how you use those words, why you use those words, what we're ultimately trying to do with those words and the structure and the sentence and the flow and all of that to produce the result that we want, which is sales in mass. And that's what we're talking about here. And so I'm going to assume as well that you're prepared to take notes. I'll explain in a second. You are going to get all the slides, a handful of PDFs and all that. And as a side note, I've tried to design these slides so that when you get the PDFs, these are very actionable, meaning rather than me have a single picture on a slide and then do a whole bunch of talking for you, I tried to put the information on the slide so that when you get the PDFs, you can use it as a resource, as a reference guide going forward. And so with that, I want to cover a couple of housekeeping items for you. And so number one, we're going to go till about 5 p.m. Eastern time on both days, today and tomorrow. Maybe I might go over a little bit. Today might be a little bit, we might end a little bit early. Tomorrow we might end a little bit late. I say roughly, or as I like to put in here, about 5 p.m. So I believe it was on the last workshop when we were supposed to wrap at 5 p.m. We were still going at 8:30. And that's because I want to make sure that that everybody's questions get answered. And I'm going to explain a nice treat for you in just a second. We're going to have a 1-hour lunch break at 12:30 p.m. on each day, today and tomorrow. There'll be a couple of bio breaks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, 10 minutes. I like to go. And so we're going to keep the breaks to a minimum, but just know we'll do one 10-minute break in the morning, one 10-minute break in the afternoon, and a lunch break at 12:30. So do the best you can to hold in what you gotta hold in. The recordings, the unedited video and audio recordings, as well as the PDFs of my slides of everything that I cover with you, is going to be released on Monday late afternoon. So you're going to get on Monday, just 2 days from now, less than 24 hours after we wrap the workshop, you're going to get the recordings to go back through anything and everything. And then, of course, over the coming weeks, we're going to clean up the recordings and, make them look all pretty. And then you'll get access to those as well for life. Now, I mentioned questions. And so because I know that, putting this together, I really almost felt to be transparent with you. I was really going to do this over 3 days because I feel like it warrants 3 days, but I chose 2 days. Just because I was scared that that you wouldn't be able to pay attention to all this information over 3 days. But what I've decided to do to accommodate your questions, your specific questions, your specific implementation questions, is Monday night from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to do an open Q&A just for you guys. So you'll be able to ask me any questions that you have about any of the content that we cover over the next 2 days. You'll also be able to share with me an idea that you have if you want to get my feedback on the idea, the hook, the theme. If you want to run a headline by me, if you want to run a lead by me, or if you want to ask me questions about your offer, which we're only going to spend very little time talking about on this workshop. But any of that, right? It's basically open. So there's no slides prepared, no training prepared, just answering your questions for 3 straight hours. And so get ready for that. Now, as well, on here, what I would say is that I believe we probably have about 50% of the people, roughly about 50% of the people that are attending live, the other 50% that are going to be watching this via the recording. And so you've got sharp people on here. You've got people that recognize the value of copy. You've got serious students on here when it comes to copy and marketing. Take advantage of that in the chat. When you have an aha, when something clicks for you, when you see something that you didn't see before, or when you feel you've got a tidbit to add to what it is that I share, pop it into the chat. Please take advantage of that as well. Get to know the other people that are here. You're going to see some people that are coming on later in the day as well. Again, there are some extremely sharp people that are on with us. Take advantage of that. Get to know them, share your ideas, look for ideas. This is a great opportunity for you to contribute and for you to get back from other people in the group. And so take advantage of that. If you've got an urgent question for me that you just cannot wait to ask until Monday night, and by the way, Monday is also going to be recorded. You're going to get a full copy of that recording, and we're going to do a transcript on that as well for you. But if you've got an urgent question that you can't wait till Monday to have answered, go ahead and pop that into the little Q&A box, little Q&A thing inside of Zoom. Other than that, go ahead and use the chat. With that, let me give you an ultra quick overview of the agenda so that you can get prepared for what it is that we're about to do over the next 2 days, because this is a tremendous undertaking, one that I truly believe is going to change the rest of your journey as an entrepreneur. So number one, day one, today, as much as I am excited about jumping into the nitty-gritty tactics, the rhetorical devices, the language patterns, the word choice, the sentence structure, the framing, loaded language, all of that kind of stuff. Today, we're going to lay the foundation for good copy. We're going to talk about the things that have to come first. And we're going to talk about my thinking, my thinking about the strategy. So we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details about the strategy per se, but I'm going to give you what you need to know and understand when I'm thinking about copy, preparing for copy, and then getting started with copy. So today we're going to cover some core copy principles. I'm not talking, the 101 stuff. If anything, we're going to take some of the 101 stuff and I'm going to show you the nuance of it that is left out when most people talk about the 101 stuff. We're going to be talking about core copy principles. We're going to be talking about problem buckets and the different types of problems that your market falls into and why you need to understand this. We're going to be talking about the difference between problems and pain points and why you need to understand the difference and which you should be focusing on. We're going to talk about the 3 elements of persuasion, which need to be strewn throughout your copy. We're going to talk about the different benefit types, avoiding faux benefits. We're going to talk about the value of contrast and why you need to use contrast when talking about your solution and when talking about the pain and problems. We're going to be talking about research and the decisions that need to be made, the specific decisions, the specific questions that you need to answer, the decisions that you need to make with those before you write a single word of copy. We're going to be talking about what today I refer to as the offer solution. This is the only part of the offer that we're going to be talking about, but this is the part that This is the part that I believe today is left out when most people are engineering even what they consider to be an irresistible offer. And so we're going to be talking about the offer solution, or what I like to refer to as the attractive solution. We're going to be talking about prospect perceived risks, because there's more than just financial risk associated with somebody taking advantage of your offer. We're going to talk about what those risks are so that you understand the risks that we need to overcome in your copy. We're going to be talking about the buying belief, the one belief that we need your prospects to have to move them to take advantage of your offer. We're going to be talking about hooks and themes. We're going to be talking about the lead emotions, the things that we need to tap in the lead, the objective of the lead, the purpose of the lead, my go-to lead. I'm going to show you an example of this, and we're going to break down the 4 primary feelings that you need to elicit in the lead. And then we're going to get into we're going to cover a bit of the argument, meaning the body of your copy, and the overall kind of aim, purpose, objective. And we're going to be talking about proof, because without proof, you don't have a marketing campaign, you've got a string of claims. And so I'm going to show you the one go-to proof point that you should be relying on, that all of you can use anytime you craft a campaign, whether it's for a new product that you have no testimonials, no case studies, no evidence, no track record, or anything like that. All of this we're going to cover today. And then day 2 is when we're actually going to get into the nitty-gritty details, the weeds, if you will, of writing copy. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. So once we've got the foundation from today and you understand these things that I just listed out here, then we're going to get into things like word choice and word selection, and understanding the difference in the words that you should be using and shouldn't be using. Which words make your copy feel like hype? Which words actually diffuse buying resistance? Which words create an image in your prospect's mind? And how to understand the difference between those when you are writing your copy. We're going to be talking about sentence structure. I know that this stuff can seem boring, and I debated on whether I was going to share this or not, but I couldn't leave this out. Even though this is kind of writing, if you will, there is a difference in impact depending on how you structure a sentence. You know, right from school, that there are different ways to put together sentences. The way you start, the way you close, what goes in the middle. Well, the way you start, the way you close, and what goes in the middle has an impact on the prospect. And so sentence structure is important. We're going to cover that, and you're going to see how to use this in your copy. We're going to be talking about your writing voice and what gets communicated in the tonality of what it is that you say and how you say it, because your tone in your copy really ultimately determines how your prospect accepts your message, whether they resist it, whether they accept, whether they take it and look at you as an advocate for them, or whether they look at you as pushy, aggressive, overzealous in your claims and what it is that you're trying to say. We're going to be talking about something called the power of 3s. We're going to be talking about copy flow, prospect disarming, language patterns, figures of speech, rhetorical devices, framing, loaded language, what I call the dirty details. We're going to be talking about the use of dialogue, one of my favorite things. We're going to be talking about actual writing, right? Like writing, getting this stuff down on paper, so to speak, and much, much more. And so, this is why I said, buckle up. And so with that, let's get to the first point that I want to make. And that is this. And this is strange, being that this is a workshop about copy, but I have to make this point for you guys and gals here, because this is spot on accurate, and this is critical. And that is this, that even though we're going to be spending the next 2 days, 2.5 days talking about copy in the weeds, I need you to understand that the better your offer is, the weaker your copy can be, right? Meaning that at the end of the day, there is nothing more important in a marketing campaign than the offer, right? There is nothing more important than the offer. Your job always, like in E5 coaching, which every single one of you should go through. Those of you who haven't yet, you should absolutely go through E5 coaching. You absolutely should. But it is, before we write a single word of copy, we always construct the offer, because the offer is the ultimate destination of where we are leading your prospects. And the offer is a make or break component. The offer, a great offer, can make up for a lot of marketing weaknesses, but great marketing, great copy will never make up for a weak offer. A weak run-of-the-mill offer will damage even great copy. And so I'm sharing that with you because most marketers, they invest very little time in crafting and engineering their offer. Most will spend 15, 20 minutes maybe putting together their offer, and then they'll agonize over the copy. And oftentimes what happens, and I need you to get this, I need you to listen to me here, is that when folks have a run-of-the-mill, an average offer, like, here's my product, here's the price, there's a 30-day guarantee, and here are some bonuses that I got on my hard drive, here you go. They have to work extra hard to make the copy great, to make up for that. They have to work extra hard at the idea, the hook, the theme. They have to work extra hard at the body of the campaign. They've got to work extra hard to make the copy sound exciting, sound different, sound unique, because the offer is run of the mill. But when the offer is great, when the offer is a true no-brainer, when the offer is irresistible, when the offer truly leads your prospect to say, why the heck wouldn't I do this? You don't need crazy whiz bang copy. And the reality is that if I were to tell you guys, if I were to give you a piece of advice, this is going to sound strange coming at the beginning of a copywriting workshop, but if I were to give you a piece of advice, and it would be this, about this in particular, that you are much better off. You're much better off for the success of your business, sales, revenue, all that, your income, to focus on mastering the art and science of putting together great offers than you are mastering the art and science of copy, right? Putting together good copy is a lot more difficult than is putting together a great offer. Now, when you do both, you've got the makings for a home run grand slam campaign that can build, like a single campaign that can build the back of your company for months and months and months. But between the two, if I had to have you choose, I would tell you to create stellar offers, right? Like, create stellar offers. Because, right, like, the game of what you're finding in most markets is you're finding copy that is getting more and more outlandish, more and more ridiculous, more and more exaggerated, more and more filled with hype, hyperbole, and puffery, right? Because everybody is relatively competing on the same offer, the same kind of, right? Like, somebody might have a different information product, a different product, right? But ultimately the offer for that product is really the same as what everybody else in the market is trying to compete on. And so what ends up happening is, to stand out, they try to use their copy, and they try to use their words, and they try to use this hyperbole. The reality is that it's much easier and much smarter to cut through that with a better offer than it is simply better copy. Now, when you combine the two, that's when you've got the makings for a grand slam home run. So Leo asks a quick question that I'll just address real quick. So, how important is price point in creating great offers? Does cheaper equate to a great offer? No, cheaper doesn't, there's absolutely not. Cheaper doesn't mean that it's a better offer, right? Like, here's the reality. Let me say this, and this is kind of something that, I'm going to dive out for 1 second of this workshop. I want you to understand that. What if I said to you that you can get cheaper clicks, cheaper visitors to your website? Does that automatically mean that those are better clicks? right? No, cheap is the price point to the majority of folks is irrelevant unless you understand the value, right? And so cheaper in terms of price point doesn't necessarily make something better. It certainly could, right? But cheaper price point is only one of several components that make up an offer. There are a lot of other elements that you can use to manipulate an offer. You can certainly you have price, you have terms. How do they pay? Is it a hard offer? Is it a soft offer? Do they pay everything up front? Do they pay payments? Do they pay nothing today, and then only if they love the product and see what it does in the next 30 days will they pay in full? There are premiums, and what do those premiums do for them? Right? What do those premiums allow them to do? What pain points do those premiums take away? There's risk reversal, right? What are they being guaranteed? Is it a conditional or unconditional? Is it a combination of both? Is it double your money back? There are a lot of different elements that make up for or that make or contribute to a great offer. Just know this, that the better the offer is, the weaker your copy can be. And so you always want to start with the best offer that you possibly can put together. And then you go into the copy. With that, now let's get to the first chunk that I want to talk about today, which is the foundational principles. And this is this is about mindset and your understanding of what moves people to buy, of what people are buying, of why they're buying, because you have to understand the purpose and objective behind the words that we use. In other words, let me say that again. You have to understand the purpose and objective behind the words that we use, behind what you say. There is an aim, or should be an aim, to all of your copy. You're going to hear me talk about this a little bit later on today, but everything that I say and do and show and present and demonstrate in a piece of copy is there for a reason. And I can tell you that reason, right? And so there's an outcome, there's a result, there's a belief, there's an objection, there's a feeling that I'm trying to convey, that I'm trying to elicit or bring about in the prospect. And so my point is that you have to understand why people buy and what people buy so that you can understand what to say and how to say it to prospects. And so the first thing that I want you to understand, and some of this, some of this, right, you should know, but I want this to go from you just knowing it intellectually to you using this in your copy. And that is, number one, people don't buy products and services for the product or service itself. They buy products and services for the result, the change, the outcome, the transformation, right? People don't buy products and services for the product and service itself. Nobody buys, a bottle of vitamin D because they want a bottle with 100 tablets in their kitchen cabinet. Nobody buys a financial newsletter, an investing newsletter, because they're excited about an 8-page thing showing up in their mailbox. They're buying products and services for the result, for the outcome, for the change, for the benefit that they believe they're going to experience from the product or service. And so you need to understand that. You need to understand what is the outcome that this prospect wants. What is the result that this prospect wants? Because that's what they're buying. They're not buying an information product because they want more videos on their computer, or they want more cheat sheets on their computer, or they want more action guides on their computer. They don't love PDFs. That's not why they're buying it. They're buying it because they believe that it is going to produce a result, a change. That's important for you to understand, because we sell the result, we sell the change, we sell the outcome. We demonstrate that we've got a solution, a method, a process, a mechanism to give them the result, the outcome. And you'll see that we focus on the result, the outcome, the payoff, not the thing. You don't talk about, right? Like, even when you get to the offer, you don't talk about what your product is. You talk about what your product does. You don't talk about what your product is. You talk about what your product does, because it's what it does that is why people buy. People buy solutions, and listen to me because we're going to break this down. People buy solutions to problems that they want resolved to feel how they want to feel. Let me say that again. People buy solutions to problems. They're buying solutions. They're right. The solution, a solution is something that, right, it produces a result. It produces an outcome. It produces a change. It produces a transformation. They're buying solutions to problems that they want resolved so that they can feel a certain way, so that they can feel how they want. Like Mike said, and he beat me to the punch, people buy based on emotions, and they buy emotions. People buy out of emotion. You've heard it said before with copy, right? Like with copy, with marketing, with sales, that people buy out of emotion and then they justify their purchase with logic, right? Afterwards, right? You'll understand that, right? They buy out of emotion and then they look for the justification, the rationalization for the purchase decision, right? And so they buy out of emotion. But what they're also doing is they're buying emotions. They're buying products to resolve problems because they want to feel a certain way. They either no longer want to feel a negative way, or they want to feel more a more positive emotion, right? They want more of a positive emotion, or they no longer want to feel a negative emotion. But understand, right, that what you're marketing and selling is you're marketing and selling a solution to a problem. You're marketing and selling a solution to a problem that your prospect wants resolved so that they can feel a certain way, right? And people buy emotions, right? Some examples, you know this. People buy a home security system, right, because they want to feel safe, right? You know that they're buying security, right? They're buying security. They're buying protection for their home. They're buying protection for their family because they want to feel safe. If they're a parent, if they're a spouse, they want to feel like a good provider. They want to feel like a good guardian. They want to feel like they've done something responsible. They want to feel like they've gone the distance to take care of their family. They're buying those feelings. You might say that, you could say that to some extent, right? That people are, they're buying security. What they're really buying is the feeling of security, right? Because security is really, for lack of a better phrase, it's an illusion, right? So they're buying the feeling of security. So in Botox, maybe they're buying the feeling. They want to feel more attractive. They want to feel more youthful, right? A Rolex, they want to feel more successful. They want to feel accomplished. They want to feel like they've arrived. They want to feel like they deserve it. They're buying emotions. Teeth whitening, they want to feel more confident. A productivity system, maybe they want to feel less overwhelmed. People are buying emotions, right? You have to understand this. Now, I said that people buy solutions to problems that they want resolved so they can feel a certain way. You have to understand that, and this is an important point that you've heard, no doubt, but I want you to get the nuance to this, that we don't create the desire to solve a problem. We don't create the desire to solve a problem in somebody. We simply channel the existing desire that is already there to create demand for our offer, right? So there are a lot of marketers that will attempt to get somebody to want to change a part of their business or change a part of their life or change an aspect of their life, right? There are a lot of marketers that attempt in their copy with their products, they attempt to get somebody to have desire, and then they use their product or service to fulfill that desire. Reality is that that's a loser's game. You need to tap into an existing desire to solve a problem. You have that desire needs to already exist in your prospect. You're selling, marketing to, talking to an existing desire. We're not trying to create that desire. We're just leveraging that desire. We're channeling that desire through our copy, through our marketing message into demand for our offer. In other words, we're taking the existing desire and we're turning that desire for a result, for an outcome, for a change, for the alleviation of a problem, and we're turning it into demand for our offer, for your offer. So we are starting with an existing problem, with what they see as an existing problem. And that's an important point, because what I want you to understand is that you have to begin with, which we're going to talk about. You have to begin with, what is the problem that your prospect sees and believes they have, right? Because in order to get attention, we've got to tap into what they believe is the problem that they have. It's not the problem that we know they have or we believe they have. It's not the problem that we would solve or attack or try to alleviate if we were in their shoes. It's what's the problem that they want to solve, right? What is the outcome that they want? You've got to learn, when it comes to copy, you've got to learn to get out of the way. You've got to learn to step out of seeing the world through your own eyes, and you have to learn to see the world through your prospect's eyes. It's not about what you want. It's not about what excites you. It's not about what motivates you. It's not about what you would do or you think you should do in that situation. It's not about what you would want if you're in their situation. It's not about what you think you would do if you're in their situation. It's about the prospect. And so, right, we don't create that desire. We don't create the desire to solve the problem. We just tap into their existing desire, the desire that they have, and then we leverage it and turn it into demand for your offer. Now, when we're talking about problems, you're going to hear me go back consistently to this idea of we're offering solutions to problems. I need you to understand that there are two buckets of two buckets of problems. And I'm gonna get to let me see here. I'll get to Edward and Jan asked two questions, urgent questions. And so I'm gonna get to those in just a second. So there are two buckets of problems. So when I talk about problems, what most marketers immediately think of as a problem is they think of what I would call unresolved distress, right? That is like, that is, you're in pain. You've got, you're losing cartilage in your knee and it's painful and you're struggling to walk. You're in debt. You don't know how to get out. Your home is about to be foreclosed on. You're grossly overweight and feel unhealthy. Your business is bleeding money every day, right? Those are what I call unresolved distress. Somebody is in a painful state and they want to get out of that pain. Those are individuals that are ultimately, they're moving away from a problem. They've got a problem, they've got unresolved distress, and they want to get out of that. Right. And that is the common type of bucket, if you will, that most marketers think of when they think about problems. But there's also what I would refer to as an unfulfilled need or desire. And so there may not be unresolved distress, but there is a desire for something, for more of something, and the prospect doesn't know how to get it. I want to, let's say somebody wants to, have a real estate investment portfolio and they don't know where to begin. Somebody wants to grow a green, lush lawn and they don't know what to do about it. They want to have a crystal clear pool and they don't know the best way to take care of it. They want to leverage a new opportunity in the stock market, the crypto or something, and they don't know how to take advantage of it. And so they want to get wealthy in this area. They want to grow grass in this area. They want to, right. Or maybe they're in good shape, but they want a six pack, or maybe they want to step on stage and compete in a bodybuilding contest, something like that. Right. That's not what we would call unresolved distress. That is what we would call an unfulfilled need or desire. Why am I sharing that with you? I'm sharing that with you because both of these are considered a problem. So when you hear me use the word problem going forward, as we're talking about copy and addressing the problem and solving the problem and all that, I want you to understand that Problems can fall into one of these two buckets. But you need to be talking about a problem that falls into one of these two buckets. That has to exist. They either have to have an unresolved distress, or they have to have an unfulfilled need or desire. They have to have one or the other. We're not going to try to create that in their mind. We're not going to try to create unresolved distress in their mind. We may, as we're going to talk about, we may prod it, we may agitate it, we may irritate it, we may pour salt on it, but it has to be there to begin with, right? We're not going to try to create an unfulfilled need or desire in their life or their business, right? We want to tap into existing unfulfilled need or desire. Now, look, let me say this. Are there super sharp copywriters and marketers that can create campaigns that create unfulfilled need or desire? Absolutely. Absolutely. Should you be doing that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What is the unresolved distress that you are going to solve, that you're going to alleviate, that you're going to get rid of for them, that they want to get rid of, that is on the top of their mind? Or what is the unfulfilled need or desire that you're going to give them that is also top of mind for them, that is something that they want? And so Edward asked, so let me take a quick, and then I'm going to make an additional point to go even deeper on this. So Edward said, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you also mentioned that having enough testimonials can offset a poor offer. In that case, which would you prioritize? Testimonials, offer, and or copy? So what I would tell you is this. This is a great question, and I want everybody to listen to me, even though it's a little bit of a tangent, going back to the offer for 1 second. So Edward is asking, really, if you have enough testimonials, does that make up for a weak offer? No, right? Because if you're offering a piece of garbage and you've got enough testimonials talking about that piece of garbage, it doesn't make that piece of garbage any more exciting, right? And so a brutally difficult solution, a brutally difficult to use solution, and we're going to talk about this criteria in a little bit, but a brutally difficult solution, a solution that, or a product solution that your prospect sees as brutally difficult to use, has a steep learning curve, produces very slow results, produces small results, like it doesn't produce big monster life-changing results. It produces, small results, is costly and exhausting to implement. Having testimonials isn't going to make that more exciting. What testimonials can do, what proof can do, proof is another way of making up for weaker copy, right? And so the reality is, if you've got, this is what I've said before, and so this is what you are referring to, Ed. And so what you're referring to is, I've said before that if you've got a great offer and you've got enough proof, you could literally have a headline. You could have, right? You have a headline, a promise of result offer. You have proof, you have testimonials, endless case studies, and then you have the offer, and you can get away with that. If you've got a good enough offer, you've got enough proof, you could literally have just a promise, proof, and the offer, and boom, you'll be good to go. But excessive amount of testimonials will never make up for a weak run-of-the-mill offer, period. And so hope that answered that question. Quickly, Jan said, could you give an example of who tries to create desire rather than channeling it the wrong way, basically? So, yeah, let's just say this. Here is a simple, might be an extreme example, but it is a simple example, right? That there are a lot of people that, like, I've got family members that have zero interest in becoming an entrepreneur. They don't want to have their own business. They love the idea of what they believe is the security of a job, God bless, the benefits, all that. And they have no desire whatsoever to become an entrepreneur. I'm not going to try to convince them first to become an entrepreneur and why they want to become an entrepreneur, and then try to convince them to buy a product or service that helps them do that, right? I'm going to go out and I'm going to find people that already have that unfulfilled desire to become an entrepreneur, right? That want to get free. And so, right, just like I'm not going to try to talk to people about what makes my fitness program the best fitness program for losing weight if they don't already have either unresolved distress about their weight and the impact on their health and wellness, or the people that don't have a desire to lose weight. And so that desire for the result, let me say that again, the desire for the result that our solution produces has to be there already. I'm not saying, and I want to be careful here, and we're going to circle back and talk about this. I'm not saying that the desire for your product needs to be there. That's not what I'm saying, right? I'm not even saying that the desire for your type of product needs to be there. It's not what I'm saying for you. I'm saying that the underlying outcome, the underlying result, the underlying transformation that your product, that your offer can provide somebody, the desire for that outcome needs to already be there. I'm not going to try to convince somebody of why they want the outcome. I'm simply going to convince them of why our offer is the best vehicle to give them that outcome. That might seem like nuance, but it's not. That distinction is key. I want to talk to people that already want the outcome that I can provide. My job is simply to show them that I have a solution that is not only different from everything else out there, but is superior to everything else out there when it comes to giving them that outcome. So the outcome needs to exist already. Jan had a follow-up with that, said, so if you have a product that helps people get better at something, say to build a full-time income as a photographer, you focus more on the unfulfilled desire and rub the unresolved distress. Would that be correct? Not necessarily. Hold that. We're gonna get into that in a little bit when it comes to understanding the emotions of the market, right? Because it's really all about the market. Like, look, the reality is, so that you understand, the reality is that without leaping too far ahead, is that, the way that I want you to really look at this is that the unresolved distress is negative. It's the presence, it's the existence of a pain point. Like, it's a true, it's a, again, for lack of a better phrase, not to confuse anybody, but an unresolved distress is like the presence of a pain point. It's the presence of a clear problem. They see it as a problem. It's the presence of a negative that they want to get rid of. So there's negative emotions that they have about that unresolved distress. There's fear, there's disappointment, there's anxiety, there's pain that they are having, right? Maybe physical, maybe mental, emotional, whatever. Unfulfilled need or desire is a little bit different, because if I want to grow a green, lush lawn and I don't know how to do it, there's not the same level of pain, of anguish in my life over that unfulfilled desire as there would be if, let's say, my house was ready to be foreclosed on, or I was in debt and I didn't know how to get out, or I was developing arthritis and I didn't know what to do, right? And so the unfulfilled need or desire, when I'm talking to somebody that's got an unfulfilled need or desire, I tend to be more focused on the positive, on the outcome, on the excitement of the result. But when I'm talking to somebody that is dealing with unresolved distress, we might be more apt to start with the problem, right? Because that's what they're thinking, right? Like, and so we're going to get into this, because you have to understand that, without skipping ahead, what I want you to understand is that I'm sharing this with you because when we get to the part where we're talking about identifying what problem you are solving, you have to understand which bucket it goes into, because the bucket that the problem that you are dealing with, the bucket that it goes into is going to play a role in how we talk about the result, right? Like, in other words, look, somebody that wants to, let's say somebody that's got an unfulfilled need or desire to let's say be a photographer, a successful photographer, what we're a lot less likely to start with a fear-based promotion, right? Like, we're a lot less likely to jump in and start scaring the bejesus out of them and what their life's going to turn out to be if they don't become a successful photographer, and so on, right? Because that's not their frame of reference. That's not the frame of the problem, right? The problem is an unfulfilled need or desire. It's not causing this distress. Unresolved distress, they're coming into the campaign with pain, with frustration, right? And so we have to understand that, because we have to understand, as you're going to learn more about, we didn't even scratch the surface, obviously, yet, as you're going to learn more about, is we have to understand the mindset, the psychology, the emotional frame of the prospect based on the problem that they have and the type of problem that they have, because that's going to help us to convey what we need to convey the right way, leveraging the right frame. And so, thing to understand, what I want you to grasp, the next piece to this is that, the problem equals pain, right? So the problem, my house is in foreclosure, and you're right, it's ready to be foreclosed on. That the fact that my house is in foreclosure and is ready to be foreclosed on creates pain for me. That might seem like a subtle point, but I want you to understand this. The problem is not the same as the pain. The problem is the cause of the pain. The pain is what the prospect wants solved. So, in other words, right, this is right. You're just going to file this stuff away. These are foundational. You're going to see how we're going to come back to this later today. We're going to come back to this tomorrow. You're going to see how word choice, sentence structure, flow, what we say, what we don't say, framing, all that leverages this, right? The problem isn't the same as the pain. The problem is the cause of the pain. It's the pain that the prospect wants solved, right? So the prospect that is in their home their home is about to be foreclosed on. The problem is that their home is about to be foreclosed on. The fact that their home is about to be foreclosed on is creating this pain of fear, anxiety, doubt, maybe hopelessness. And what the prospect ultimately wants resolved is they want that fear, that anxiety, that hopelessness resolved by getting out of foreclosure. In other words, they believe that by getting out of foreclosure, they're no longer going to feel that distress, that pain, that anxiety, that fear, that hopelessness. And so the pain comes from how the prospect feels about the problem. Just remember this, file this away. The pain, which is what the prospect wants solved, which is what the prospect wants alleviated, which is what the prospect wants removed. The pain comes from how the prospect feels about the problem. Important point. You're going to see how we constantly go back to this, and we leverage this, and we prod this, and we demonstrate this through the copy. Now, ultimately, the strategic aim, and then I'm going to go back and make sure that I wrapped up the questions in the little question section. The strategic aim of our copy, and like, look, on this A to Z copywriting workshop, I'm sharing with you my approach, the way that I think, the way that I operate, the way that I craft campaigns. I'm giving you the reason why my campaigns have been effective. There's obviously a lot of different ways to skin a cat. My entire aim, and I want you to get this, because even though this is one slide, this is the approach, the philosophy, the mindset that I take with all campaigns. My aim, the strategic aim, objective, goal of my copy, once I understand, right, what the prospect wants and all these things that we're going to talk about, right, is to show the prospect that I have a different and superior way to solve their problem. I have a different way to solve their problem. My method, my framework, my approach, my process, my formula, my algorithm, my thing is different. My product is ultimately built on something, right, that is different from the way other competing products are built, right? It's not only different, but it is superior in the way that it solves the prospect's problem, in the way that it alleviates their pain, right? Like, in other words, look, understand that they want to solve their problem so that they can alleviate their pain. I'm going to show them that I have a different way to solve their problem, to alleviate their pain. And that different way that I have, right, is superior to the other ways, methods, mechanisms, systems, frameworks, processes, formulas, algorithms out there. This is the heart and soul of what it is that we are ultimately doing in the body of our campaign. We're ultimately, what we're saying to the prospect, right, is, and I want you to get this. I want you to think about this, right? Because you should understand. And let me do this for 1 second so that you guys can, where is this? You guys can see just me. And so that you can pay attention. Many of you, I know that we've got a mix on here of people. Some people have been exposed to the E5 method. Some people haven't been exposed to the E5 method. And so some of this, you may have, some of you have maybe heard me talk about this before, but I've got to quickly just give this ultra quick explanation, right? It's important for folks to understand there's a difference between marketing and selling. People online, marketers online, entrepreneurs online tend to confuse or conflate marketing and selling. They talk about and think about marketing and selling as if it was the same activity with the same objective. Marketing and selling is not the same activity, and it does not have the same objective, right? I'll say for time that selling is what we're doing when we're ultimately presenting our offer, when we're talking about our product and we're talking about the features, advantages, benefits, when we're talking about the offer, the price, the terms, the guarantee, the risk reversal, right? Selling is what you're doing when you're talking to somebody at a point, when you're communicating with somebody at a point that already knows that they want your type of product or service. And now they just want to know what makes yours better, what makes yours different, why yours over every other option. Marketing, the job of marketing, as Peter Drucker said, right, one of the greatest management gurus ever, the job of marketing is to ultimately make selling superfluous, meaning to make it unnecessary. That doesn't mean that we're making the offer unnecessary. It just means that ultimately what Peter Drucker was really saying is that the job of marketing is to perfectly set up the sale of the product or service. The job of marketing is to turn a prospect's desire for a result into demand for the product or service before you ever even introduce the product or service. The job of marketing is to turn your prospect's desire for a result into demand for your product or service before you ever even present it. And so I'm sharing that with you here, right? Because I want you to understand that, right? What we're talking about, we're not talking about writing copy to just put together a sales pitch. Right? What we're talking about is putting together copy, putting together a marketing message that leads people to want your product or service, that leads people to see why it is the smart decision for them, the smartest decision for them, to lead people to understand why they should buy right now, right? And why they should buy yours versus every other option. And so I'm sharing that with you. Let me do this. Let me do this again, go back to sharing my screen. I'm sharing that with you because what I'm doing before the offer, before I present the offer, like before I roll out the offer, ultimately the big overarching theme, the big overarching idea, the big overarching approach that I take is I'm saying to the prospect, you've got this problem. You want that problem resolved. so that you can experience XYZ. Well, I have a different way to give you XYZ so that you feel great, a way that is different from anything else that you've seen, heard, used, or tried in the past. And that different way is superior to every other method, process, system out there for giving you the result that you want so that you can feel the way that you want. That's ultimately what we are conveying. And then we're going to prove it. We're going to demonstrate it. We're going to show it. We're going to lead the prospect to see this is not only different, but this is superior to every other option for giving me the thing that I want. How we do that, right, is what we're going to be talking about over the next 2.5 days, right? How we frame it, how we say it, how we present it so that the prospect does see, man, this is sick. This is it. This is the answer. This changes everything, right? But ultimately, this is what it is that we're doing. And again, we're showing how solving the problem takes away the prospect's pain. So let me go back real quick, make sure that I've got this. So Lynn said, obviously it's easier to, so Lynn said, obviously it's easier to address than unresolved distress, but do you find that there's a difference in client stick and or quality between the two buckets? I wonder if unfulfilled need or desire clients stick better because they're closer to solution aware than the distress focused clients. Have you seen any difference between the two? Amazing question. Would expect nothing less from Lynn, an all-star copywriter herself. So I will answer this. I'll answer that by saying this. No, there's very little difference when done right. Like I'm going to teach you guys in terms of stick between the two buckets, but I will tell you that it is, again, for lack of a better word or lack of a better descriptor, it's easier to convert the unresolved distress folks than it is the unfulfilled need or desire, because of there's a small difference between the two, right? That the people that have this unresolved distress, like, so when, this is why, by the way, if I step back for 1 second, this is why legendary copywriter Gary Benzavanga, when he was talking about the campaigns that, how he was able to create control after control, meaning marketing promotion after marketing promotion that couldn't be beat by other copywriters. In some cases for years, his controls could not be beat. One of the things that he always looked for when, like, before he wrote any copy, was he looked for a severe problem, or what is often referred to as a bleeding neck problem. A bleeding neck problem, right, is a severe problem, a significant problem, a problem that if it goes unaddressed can wreak havoc, can cause major damage. That is much easier to sell to than is an unfulfilled need or desire, especially an unfulfilled desire, because the unfulfilled desire isn't really, it's not viewed as a necessity. It's viewed as a want. It's viewed as a desire, right? We're going to talk about tomorrow, how can you take an unfulfilled desire and how can you actually show them that it's really an unfulfilled need? Right. So ultimately, needs are more powerful than wants. I'm not saying, let me see how I can explain that. When we can turn a want, something that they want, when we can show them that it's not just something they want, but it is something that they need in order to solve their problem. Like, in other words, if we can show them that the problem that they have is not just something that they want resolved, but if they want to experience the outcome, they need to resolve it. And unless they resolve it, they will never experience the outcome. When you can do that, you've got something extremely powerful. That's why the unresolved distress people are easier to convert, because they're much closer to seeing their problem as a need to be resolved than the unfulfilled desire people. And so in terms of conversion, right, if you can identify somebody that has unresolved distress and especially if it's severe. Like the easiest people to convert, that give you the biggest opportunity, are the people that have unresolved distress and they see it as severe, and you've got a different and superior way to get them to solve that problem and get them out of that severe pain. You've got a tremendous opportunity. Now, I'm sharing that as a point for, like, look, if you can identify those in your market, if you can identify those unresolved distress points and you can address those and you can solve those, that's the direction that you ultimately want to go. Like if I had to choose between the two, or I got to choose between the two, I'm going to go with an unresolved distress that's severe. Like we saw this in the online marketing space fairly recently, where some marketers turned the iOS tracking update into something huge and created a lot of, for people, unresolved distress, right? Like, and that's why you saw these negative, like fear-based appeals of, your tracking is going to fall apart. You're not going to know where your money is being spent. You're not going to know what's working, what's not working, blah, 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 blah. You need to fix this. Right. And so between the two, unresolved distress is what I would go for, especially if it was severe. Now, to take a step back, sometimes you don't have that option. In other words, if you're in a marketplace and you're addressing certain problems, certain things, right, you may have to deal with a unfulfilled desire. That's okay also. Right. So I don't want you to think that you're not going to be, you can't be successful with your copy if you're addressing an unfulfilled desire. You just have to understand that one of those have to exist. One of those have to exist. It's got to be there. One of those have to exist. And so hope that answers the question. Regarding the statement that we should not create desire in prospects, does this also apply if we're creating campaigns targeted to the unaware segment of the market? Great question. Love this question. Was waiting for somebody to ask me this question. Almost waiting for a member of my team to be like, Todd, wait a second. And so what I want you to understand is that even in an unaware segment, there's got to be some existing desire, even if it's minuscule and small, to be able to leverage. Meaning, like, for example, and we're going to come back to this. And so I'm just giving you an overview. Remember, just foundational principles right now. Let's take a promotion like the most successful video sales letter of all time online, The End of America by Mike Palmer from Stansberry Research. The End of America was a theme, was an idea, hook, an angle that was basically about, and I want you to bear with me here. It was basically about the idea that the dollar, the US dollar, was going to lose its status as the world's reserve currency. And therefore the U.S. economy was going to tank. And if you didn't make moves, you stand to lose a lot of money. But there are moves that you can make to protect your money and even grow a big portfolio. Didn't happen. Some would say not yet. Nevertheless, that was the theme, and it drove people wild like gangbusters. We're going to talk about why, timely, and tapping into what's top of mind for your marketplace. But you have to understand that there was still, even though those people, the majority of people, weren't actively looking for a financial newsletter, they weren't actively thinking about the economy or problems with the economy. They weren't thinking about protecting their portfolio. They weren't thinking about making more money necessarily in their portfolio at the time. But there was still an underlying desire there, right, to maximize wealth, to maintain their money. In other words, right, people that, like, I don't really care, like the person out there who's like, I don't really care about money. I'm not interested in a portfolio. I'm cool living my life day to day. No matter what they do, it's not going to work. right? Like, doesn't matter what they do, right? Like at the end of the day, the person who's like, I don't really care about money. I don't care about my investments. I don't care about retirement. I'm not even like, I have no interest in that whatsoever. I'm good to go. I'm going to live my life like a rock star, die young, blah, 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 whatever. There's nothing that we're going to say to them that's going to convince them to want to care for their money and therefore care about the fact that the dollar is going to lose its status as the world's reserve currency, blah, 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 blah. You see, like, so even in the unaware, right, there has to be an underlying desire, right, or else they're not going to care. And so unaware doesn't mean there's no desire, right? It just means they're not thinking about a problem and not actively looking for a solution. So it's not top of mind for them, but they still have to care. They still have to have that, like, underneath, there still has to be a desire. You can have a desire and still be in the unaware, right? It just depends on the level of desire that you have. And so hopefully that point makes sense, that right at the end of the day, even though you are going after, let's say, the unaware segment, or you're creating a campaign that is really indirect, story-based, going after that unaware segment, you have to be talking to people that care about the desire, like the outcome, the result on some level. Because if they don't, nothing you say is going to convince them to act. And so hopefully that answers that question. Guillermo said, G said, can an audience have both an unfulfilled desire and an unresolved distress? And do you focus on only one? So can they have, sure, they can have both. And we would focus on both. Like, in other words, at the end of the day, don't overcomplicate this, right? I'm giving you the nuance. I'm giving you some things to think about in the foundational stuff, right? But don't overcomplicate it. At the end of the day, this is the way that I want you guys to really think about it. You're talking to people that have a problem of some sort, right? At the end of the day, you're talking to people that have a problem of some sort. Which bucket it falls into, which one we primarily leverage, which one we start with we're gonna be talking about that kind of stuff tomorrow. That impacts what we say and how we say it and how we present it. But at the end of the day, you're talking to somebody that's got a problem and they want that problem resolved because they want to feel a certain way. It's our job to show them that we can help them feel the way that they want. We can help them resolve the problem. And we have a different way to resolve it. And our different way is superior, is better than every other option out there to resolve it. That's all we're doing. That's, at the end of the day, that's what we are doing. Right? People don't buy for a lot of different reasons, right? Like they might not, right? They might not be, if the copy is filled with puffery, hype, exaggeration, things that we're going to be talking about tomorrow, examples that I'm going to be showing you, right? They might not believe because they might not buy because they don't believe you. They don't believe that they can get the result. They don't believe what it is that you're promising them they can experience. But at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. At the end of the day, that's what all effective marketing campaigns are all about. You've got this problem. You want to get out of that problem or alleviate that problem so you could feel a certain way. I have a way for you to do that. My way is different from every other way out there. And my way is superior compared to all the other options that you have for experiencing that outcome. Here is the offer for you to do that. That's ultimately what it is that we are doing. That's always what it is that we are doing. And you're going to hear me constantly and see me constantly go back to the different and superior. We're going to talk a little bit, just very little bit, about the unique mechanism, even though it's critical, but it's more strategic than it is tactical. But at the end of the day, right? Number one, different gets attention. Listen to me. Different gets attention. Better doesn't always get attention, right? Better, right? Number one, using words like this is better, right? Just simply using words like this is better, this is faster, this is easier, that's what they expect you to say. That's what your prospects expect you to say. They don't expect you to say this is slower, this is weaker, right? They expect you to say that kind of stuff. Right? They expect you to talk about how great it is, right? We're going to show your prospect that, right, that this is different. Different gets attention. Different doesn't produce the sale though. Superior produces the sale. It's not enough for you to communicate to your prospect that you've got something different, right? Maybe your vitamin supplement, maybe your blood pressure lowering supplement has a red label and the competition has a blue label. That's not enough, right? That's not enough to produce the conversion. Different gets attention. Superior produces the conversion. So you have to understand right now, and we're going to get to this. We're going to unpack this. You have to understand that what people want is the superior solution. I joke around about it. Many of you have heard me say it many times before. Nobody goes to Google and searches for the third best way to do anything. Nobody's looking for the third best way to grow a green, lush lawn, or the third best way to lose weight, or the third best way to drive traffic. They want the best way to grow a green, lush lawn, right? They might want the fastest way. They might want the easiest way. They might want the most reliable way. They might want the cheapest way. All of those, which we're going to talk about, all of those imply superiority. Fastest way to XYZ implies superiority in terms of speed. Easiest implies superiority in terms of ease, right? Cheapest implies superiority in terms of cost. Most, consistent conveys superiority in terms of reliability. The point is that people want, right? People want what is superior. We use different to get attention, and then we prove what makes it superior. And ultimately, at the end of the day, in our copy, what it is that we are doing, right, is we're showing them that we've got a different and superior way to solve the problem that they have so that they can feel the way that they want. And then we give them a crazy offer to get it. And so, so David said, confused. Isn't the pain a foreclosure and the problem is a lack of revenue, for example? Hold on to that, because I'm going to point something out to you in just a minute that should be, in just a few minutes, that should be a game changer for you, David, in your understanding of that, right? That is what we call, that's the mistake of assuming the known cause. So assuming the known cause, right, is what you're talking about. We're going to get to it. Okay. Hang on. Hold that, Jan. So hold that. Because we're not necessarily selling a micro commitment. What we're ultimately doing, to answer the question, the big question. So Jan asked, like, are you ultimately selling a micro commitment, like a strategy call, or forget what the offer is, whether the offer is a strategy call, whether the offer is a product, whether the offer is a course, whether the offer is a program, whether the offer is agency work. Forget what the offer is, right? Because the reality is that nothing else that we're going to talk about changes, right? Based on, like, the offer. I could be selling a strategy call. I could be selling a home study course. I could be selling a live event. And what I'm going to do before is the same exact thing. I have to show the prospect that I've got a different and superior way to give them the result that they want. How I fulfill that, whether I fulfill that with agency work, whether I fulfill that with a home study course, whether I fulfill that with a live event, how I fulfill that is a completely different element. In other words, that's the offer, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But, right, I first have to show them that I've got a new and different way to solve the problem so that they can feel the way that they want. And that new and different way is superior to every other way. Whether I'm offering them a live event to learn that method, I've got to prove that. Whether I'm offering them agency services to do it for them, I've got to prove that. Whether I'm offering a coaching program, I still have to do that. And so, are we differentiating from, one more question, and then we're gonna keep cruising. So, are we differentiating from both direct and indirect competitors, or just our direct response competition? Great question. So, understand this, right? So, let's go back to this right here, right? So, and I want you to get this. I want you to think about this, because this is important. And so, right, what did I say? I said people are buying solutions to problems. So let's take, for example, a chiropractor. Let's say they're treating low back pain. And so, right, they're talking to people with low back pain. Well, those people, they've got low back pain. That's the problem, and they're in pain. They're stiff. They can't do certain activities. They're popping, painkillers or whatnot, like, and so, and they're worried that they're not going to be able to, do things. It's going to get worse, blah, 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 blah. Right. Well, so chiropractic, in that case, when we're presenting chiropractic, it becomes the solution to the low back pain, right? But there are many solutions to low back pain. There's massage, there's physical therapy, there's home inversion tables, right? Like I got one of these tables where you hang upside down. There is surgery, there is injections, there's over-the-counter painkillers, there's prescription painkillers. There's a lot of different solutions to back pain, right? And so all of those, right, are potential solutions to the underlying problem, right? And so when you are competing, you're not just competing with other people selling your same exact solution. You're competing with people that are selling a solution to the same problem that you are addressing. This is why when you think of, let's say, something like getting top search engine rankings, for example, and let me do this. So all this time I was sharing my screen and none of you said anything. Let me see this here. Whoops. Where is this? Let me just bring up the chat one second. Why can I not see the chat anymore? Oh, there we go. Okay. I was on camera. Right. Now you should be able to see the screen. My thing, slide. Somebody tell me yes. Yes, perfect. So, right. So going back to the question. So, right, you're competing with everybody else that's selling a solution to the same problem. I started to say, take an agency who helps people with top Google rankings. Well, right, ultimately, right, you could make the case, just to keep things real simple and short, you could make the case that, right, the problem is that these are entrepreneurs that, let's say, they don't have enough exposure online. They're missing out on customers. They're not, it's not, people aren't able to find them online. And so they're not making as much money as they want, blah, blah, blah. And let's say they now are at an awareness level where they believe that search engine rankings are the way to go. Well, there are lots of different ways that you can get search engine rankings. You could go to an agency, but there's also software out there. So for example, a software pitch might include, or positioning and pitch for software might include going against agency, like not having to pay somebody a big chunk of change to get top Google rankings, being able to control your rankings, being able to make it work in seconds, not being at the mercy of somebody else, right? So in other words, that software is not only competing with other search engine optimization software, but that software is also competing with anybody and everybody else that's also promising to get top Google rankings, just like the agency is competing with all the other options, right? So the agency, right, if there are people in their market that are contemplating, should I go with an agency or should I go with, a piece of software? Like, I'm exploring my options. I'm at this level of awareness where I'm exploring my options, right? I have to be able to prove why the agency and our agency is the way to go versus any other option. So you're competing against everybody else that is promising to solve the same problem you are, right? Like, look, you have to understand that when it comes to the majority of online marketing trainings and courses and things like that, that are, let's say, focused on growing sales, right? Growing sales. My gosh, there are so many different types of products that are all competing to be the same solution, right? That are competing to be the same, to alleviate the same problem. So like, you could take, let's say, drive more traffic so you can get more sales, do better email so you can get more sales, have a better campaign so you could get more sales, a unique way to use webinars so you can get more sales. So you've got to understand, even though one is talking about traffic, one is talking about, let's say, webinars, one is talking about email, they're ultimately solving the same problem in this example. Right. And so you're competing with everybody and anybody that is promising to solve the same problem you are, that is promising to give the same result that you are promising. And so with that, let's jump back and go here. And so I want to talk very quickly. Just want to throw this out there because I want you to understand the foundation of what it is that we're going to be doing when we get into the weeds tomorrow with the tactical stuff. That at the root of, of persuasion, right? And I almost don't like using that word because of the negative connotations associated with the idea of persuasion. But at the end of the day, that's ultimately what we're doing in this context, right? What we're persuading somebody to see our solution, our offer as the smartest option. We're persuading people to see, right, our solution as the smart option, meaning, right, they see it as the smart option because they see that it can resolve their problem, give them the outcome that they want, make them feel the way that they want, and it can do it in a way that is superior to others. That's persuasion. Right. And so persuasion in this context isn't trickery. It isn't scammy. It isn't, right, manipulation in the evil sense of manipulation, but it is leading somebody to think and feel a certain way and seeing our solution in a certain way. There are three elements that we're going to leverage throughout all of our copy. In other words, it's going to be woven throughout copy. You've got, what Aristotle said was pathos, the emotional appeal, right? You heard me say earlier, and you know this already, that, right, that people buy out of emotion. They buy because of the emotions that they feel, and they buy emotions. In this context, right, persuasion triggers emotion. Persuasion makes people feel a certain way. And we're going to be talking about the different emotions that you can prod in a campaign, right? And when certain emotions are appropriate, right? And so, right there, the idea is that good copy is always prodding the prospect's emotions. It's not emotionless. It's not empty. It's not purely logical. It's not purely rational, right? Why? Because people buy out of emotion. We're emotionally driven creatures. And so every persuasive message, right, prods emotions, stirs emotions, fans emotions. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we are fanning the right emotions, the emotions that ultimately lead to action, right? Not fear, not stagnation, not anxiety per se, but we want to lead people to experience emotion, the emotions associated with buying. And in different contexts, different products, different markets, different emotions are appropriate. Next is ethos, right? And this is the idea of character, reputation, identity. This is about, right, showing people that, communicating that you can be more of the person that you want to be, that you aspire to be, that you see yourself as, or that you want to see yourself as, through acting on this. Right? That's ultimately what we're doing. We're demonstrating to them that you could be the person, maintain the identity, or have the identity, or see yourself as, have others see you as the person that you want to be, the person that you want to be seen as, right? People take a lot of actions to protect their reputation, to protect the way others perceive them. And so part of our message, a big part of our message, is demonstrating to them that this will allow you to be more of the person that you want to be, right? We're not going to come out and say it that way. You're going to learn tomorrow the subtle ways that we kind of put that into the copy so that it bypasses their filter, so that it doesn't, they don't see that we're doing it. But we got to demonstrate that taking the action that we want is what's going to allow them to be and feel more like the person they want to be and feel like, and is going to have them viewed as the person that they want to be viewed as. And then finally, we've got the logos, and that is the logical, rational reasoning. And this is the part that I really feel the overwhelming majority of marketers today are not taught and don't understand. They think that, and this is where you see a lot of what I would call just hyped up copy, exaggerated copy comes from, is where it comes from is all they have are claims, benefit statements, promises, all emotional appeal, all focused on you can finally be successful, you can feel successful, people will see you as successful, you're going to have this, you're going to do this, you're going to enjoy this, you're going to experience this. And they never give the logical, rational foundation for why it should be believed. Today, more so than ever, and this goes back to, this goes back thousands of years to Aristotle, but today on the internet, more than ever before, you have to provide both the emotional and logical appeal for what it is that you are talking about. You have to present both. You got to give the logical support for what it is that you are claiming. And you're going to understand, right? Like I said, this is just the foundational high level stuff. We're going to get into the weeds with this, but you have to learn to appeal to their emotions, to appeal to their ethos, their character, their identity. And you have to give them the logical rationale for why they should believe what you are saying. It's got to make sense to them rationally, intellectually, logically. They have to get it. They have to see it on a logical level. So you have to understand, and this is important, that you heard me say that people make buying decisions out of emotion, and then later on they rationalize those decisions, right? To justify. They use logic to justify their buying decision. Well, what I would say is what's different about the environment that we're operating in today is it used to be people buy out of emotion. They buy out of emotion. Listen to me, right? They buy out of emotion, and then after the sale, they will look for the logic to justify the purchase. Today, right, the desire to buy stems from the emotion, and then they look for the logical justification to support the desire to buy, and then they buy. Let me say that again. Today, right, what drives them to want to buy is the emotion. Right? The emotion drives them to want to buy. Then they look for the logical support. They look for the logic to justify that buying desire. And then when it's there, they buy. When it's not there, a lot less buy, right? You'll still get some buyers, right? But you'll get a lot less buyers. So you have to understand that the head follows the heart. The head follows the heart. This is why when we get to the lead, the opening of your campaign, you're going to see we speak to the heart first. We convince the heart. We hook the heart. We get them emotionally excited first, and then we provide the logical support. And so it's important to understand, right, that you got to have all three in your message. Good copy leverages the prospect's core emotion. It leverages, right? It leverages their emotion, what they feel coming into the campaign, what they feel about their problem. Is it, unresolved distress? Do they feel frustration? Do they feel anxiety? Do they feel fear? Or are they coming in feeling excited? Are they coming in feeling greedy? Are they coming in feeling hopeful? Right. And so it leverages the prospect's core emotion, and then it prods buying emotions. So regardless of how they feel coming in, right, we're going to leverage that coming in. We're going to start where they are coming in, right? We've got to tap into what they feel. We've got to resonate with them at the beginning, but then we're going to lead them through varying emotions to get them to buy, prodding different emotions. Let me give you a simple example of prodding an emotion that buys. Right. Let me ask you guys a question, and let me see the chat for a second. And so how many of you have bought out of FOMO, fear of missing out? How many of you have ever bought something based on FOMO? So everybody, myself included, right? Like I'm the worst. I'm a complete buyer. Like, right. This is why I always say, this is why I have subscriptions to endless newsletters, because I read it for the copy. And then in the end, I'm like, oh, dang, I need silver or whatever. There you go. That's right. Fear of missing out is an emotion that gets prodded in copy. Sometimes, not always, but fear of missing out is an emotion. Fear of missing out. Fear of missing out is an emotion that drives action. You see how that's a simple example of, right, of that's an emotion that is intentionally prodded, right? That gets intentionally prodded. It's not, we're, and you know, in no way, shape, or form am I saying that there is no fear, there is no missing out, and we're just creating this artificial idea of missing out, when there is an opportunity for somebody to miss out, or the possibility, I should say, of them missing out. Well, we have the opportunity to prod that emotion, to prod that fear of missing out. That is one simple example of prodding a buying emotion, right? And we know that people buy out of emotion. People buy because of certain emotions. That's one example of an emotion, a buying emotion that you can prod. And so good copy, like I said, leverages the prospect's core emotion, the emotion that they have coming in. It prods then buying emotions throughout. It appeals to their desired identity, right? It basically, it communicates to them, whether it's implicitly or explicitly, whether it's consciously or you know, or under the radar. It communicates to them that this will give you more of the identity that you want, and it gives them the logical buying support, meaning it gives them the evidence so that they can logically say, this makes sense. I see it. I get it. I understand it, right? That's when you've got that dual, you've got the emotion and you've got the logical support, and it makes them say, dang, this is it. This is it. And so let's do this before we go into the next. I promised you guys a quick 10-minute bio break in the morning. And so being that we've got lunch in about an hour and 20 minutes, let's take our first bio break. It'll be 10 minutes, and then we will jump back in here and pick up for the rest of the morning session until lunch. We've got a tremendous amount of stuff to cover, which is always expected with me. And so let's do this 10-minute break, and then we will be back right here. Thank you, Randall, for that. See, normally when I do these workshops, I have a note for myself, and I didn't. Thank you so much for that. Well, nobody needed to hear it. The people, they'll just miss out on the beard stuff. But the nuance that I just want to point out in what Teddy said, thank you again for that, Randall, is that when the person can't afford the best solution, right? But what they're ultimately looking for then is they're looking for the best solution within a price range, right? And so they're still looking for superiority, right? So if they say, right, well, I was looking to spend, I wanted a new AC unit. So I was looking to spend between $5,000 and $7,000, right? And so when guy comes along and says, I've got the mega unit and it's 13 grand. I'm like, unless this thing pops out 20s every day, I'm not interested in it. Right. Like, and so I'm looking to spend between $5,000 and $7,000 or whatever it is on this AC unit. And so then the question becomes, well, what is the best AC unit that's $7,000? Like, and what makes it the best? And so, right, understand that people are still looking for superior. People still want the best, whether it's within a certain price range or not, they're still looking for superiority. And so, hope that makes sense. I know it does to you, Teddy. So, all right. So now, so let's go back here. Now I want to talk about, we're still in the high level, still in the foundational stuff. I can't believe this is so typical for me. I'm on slide 18 of this mega journey here. But so you guys can see my slides. Somebody just say yes. Heck yes. All right. Thank you, Chris, Peter, Scott. I love it. Beautiful. Awesome. You guys are great. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about benefits, right? And I don't want to get into the, we're not going to, look, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly because I expect that everybody on here understands, right? So you understand that, Benefits are how something impacts a prospect. When we're talking about the prospect and what they can expect to experience and what they'll see and what they'll enjoy and what they'll get and the pain they'll no longer be in, we're talking about a benefit. Anytime we're talking about a fact about the product or the service, we're talking about a feature, right? Features are facts about the product or service. So when we're talking about the product, when we're talking about the mechanism and how the mechanism works, things that we're going to break down and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details on, right? We're not talking about benefits. Benefits are how it impacts the prospect. I want you to understand that there are 3 levels of benefits. And I first learned this many moons ago from the late, great Clayton Makepeace. And I want to share this with you. Many of you that have gone through E5 coaching have learned this, you understand this, but for the rest of you, I want you to get this very quickly. And so there are 3 types of benefits. And it's through the articulation of benefits. It's through the communicating of benefits that we demonstrate what the prospect can expect to experience. It's through the stating of benefits that we're able to show them how different their life will be, that they can experience the outcome, result, transformation that they want. We do that through stating benefits. There are 3 types of benefits, or 3 kind of levels or tiers of benefits that we can talk about. And depending on which one you stick with will determine the impact of those benefits on the prospect. So the first is what is referred to as functional benefit. And functional benefits are where the typical marketer, the typical copywriter, if you will, spends the most of their time. The functional benefit is that typical high-level superficial benefit, right? And so it's the first benefit that typically comes to mind for the majority of marketers. So an example that I give often is, let's say we were selling a mechanical pencil, and we said that there was a soft, spongy grip. So the soft, spongy grip is a feature, right? It's a fact about this mechanical pencil. A functional benefit is that it's easier to hold, right? So in other words, right, like this functional pen, it comes with this cool, blah, 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 silicone or whatever, spongy grip. And so the benefit to you is that it's easier to hold, right? That's an example of stating a feature and then giving a benefit. Understand, right, that the thing to understand first and foremost is that nobody cares about the soft, spongy grip, right? Like nobody really cares about the soft, spongy grip absent of what it means for them. And so number one, you've always got to drill into your head that like, even that phrase, that phraseology of what it means for them, right? Like even like, so what that means for you is it's easier to hold. So what that means for you is a great kind of beginner 101 type of phrase to use to make sure that you're focusing on the benefit, right? So what that means for you is blah, 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 blah. It's so what that means for you, which is where the benefit comes into play. But this is only a superficial kind of level of benefit. Now, don't get me wrong, right? The majority of entrepreneurs out there in their marketing, in their advertisements, they focus on features. They feature dump, right? This, you get this, it's, you know, the pencil is this, it holds X amount of lead. It can, you know, whatever, it's plastic. So it's lightweight, it's this, it comes with a, you know, a never ending eraser. It's got a simple click button, right? They just feature dump and they never go into benefits. The smarter marketers will then go into, so what that means for you is this. So what that means for you is this. So what that means for you is this. And that's better, but that's not the best. The best is when we add the next 2 layers of benefits. And so the first one is the dimensionalized benefit. The dimensionalized benefit is you really could refer to this. I think if he is on here now with us is, let me see, yes, our lead E5 authority, our lead E5 coach, the man, Michael Drummond, is on here with us. Those of you that are in E5 coaching, you get to work with Michael, guy that I say he knows E5, right? He's the second, he's the when it comes to E5, he knows almost just as much as me, if not as much as I do. And so he talks about this, I believe, as the experiential benefit. It's another way of saying dimensionalized. And dimensionalized is what the functional benefit looks like in the real life of the prospect. Right. And this is where it's in this level and the next level where the real impact of benefits come in. If you ever got to spend time around Clayton Makepeace before he passed, and I believe I saw Mike. Mike, you have a great picture of Mike S. Stanger, you have a great picture with Clayton from way back at MFA Live. Clayton talked about how the real power of his copy, the reason why his copy was so powerful was because he always translated functional benefits into dimensionalized and emotional. Because ultimately, right, what we're doing is we are creating a picture in the mind of the prospect. We're painting a picture of what that functional benefit really looks like for the prospect. So if we go back to that soft, spongy grip, the feature, and that the pencil is easier to hold, an example of a dimensionalized benefit is that you can write for hours every day with no pain in your hand or wrist, right? And so, excuse me. So that is a dimensionalized picture. It's dimensionalized. We're adding dimension to the functional benefit. We're adding a picture. We're adding an image. We're demonstrating for them what that looks like in their real life. An example of this, if we went back to, let's say, marketing, selling, and we said that you'll get sales every day, right? Like you'll get sales every day. That's an example of a functional benefit, right? You will. This is how your life will be impacted. You'll get sales every day, but that is a functional, superficial benefit. A dimensionalized version might be something like when you open up your email inbox, or when you go into your email inbox every morning, you'll see sales coming in, or you'll see sales in there waiting for you. That's a dimensionalized benefit. We're talking about the same functional benefit of you'll get sales every day, but we're dimensionalizing it. We're creating a picture for them that they can see in their mind's eye. We're taking what is ultimately a vague general benefit and we're turning it into something that's got dimension, that appeals to the senses, that they can see, that they can feel, that they can taste. We're going into their world and we're demonstrating a real life example, if you will, of what it is that they can expect to experience. And so that's a dimensionalized benefit. And then there is the emotional benefit. And the emotional benefit is knowing that, again, that there are the emotions are what drive the prospect to buy, right? We're driven by emotions. Now what we are, and we buy emotions. Remember, we're buying out of emotion and we are buying emotion. Now this is the emotional benefit, which is the emotional impact of the dimensionalized benefit. So really what we're saying is, how does the dimensionalized benefit, how does that picture then make them feel? When the prospect is experiencing that benefit, that example of the benefit, that real dimensionalized picture, that experiential benefit, how will they feel? How is it going to make them feel? This is right. This is the idea here of, right, that it's they're going to experience something that they could picture in their mind's eye, and it's going to make them feel a certain way. So right over here, knowing, like, feel great, knowing that you can get up every day and write to your heart's content without ever having to worry about being in pain again. So right, like feel great. Right? Like feel great, feel excited. This is just an example for illustrative purposes. Feel great, feel excited, feel hopeful that you can wake up every day right to your heart's content, like joy, right? Without ever having to, you never have to worry about being in pain anymore. And so if you put this together, right, it comes with this soft, spongy grip, right? So that it's easier to hold, right? So that you can write for hours every day with no pain in your hand or wrist. You can feel great knowing that you can get up every day and write to your heart's content without ever having to worry about being in pain again. See the difference between simply just saying it's easier to hold? It's easier to hold is that functional benefit. but it's where the dimensionalized and the emotional are where the real power is, right? The dimensionalized and emotional benefits are how you create pictures in your prospect's mind. And you've got to recognize that you're the director in the movie of the mind of the prospect. That's what we're doing. Ultimately, what you have to understand is this, that and I want you to get this, and I want you to listen to me here, okay? I want you to get this, that the emotions get triggered when your prospect is able to envision in their mind's eye the outcome, the result, the payoff, the benefits. When they are able to envision in their mind's eye, when they're able to conjure an image in their mind's eye, that's what triggers the emotion. When they're unable to envision it in their mind's eye, you don't get that same visceral emotional response from the prospect. That's why a functional benefit is good, but it falls flat. It falls flat because it's vague, and it's right. It's difficult to just say to somebody like, you'll generate sales every day. Well, what does that look like? Right? What does that look like? Like, what am I going to experience? And so it doesn't generate that same visceral emotional response. To generate, to trigger, to conjure up. And this, I want you to understand, to conjure up those images in your prospect's mind, to stimulate those emotions, to really cause those emotions to fire up, you got to touch on the dimensionalized and emotional benefit. And it's really, the dimensionalized, right? It creates that picture that allows them to experience more emotions. And then we give them an example of the emotions that they can expect to experience, right? So just by creating that picture in their mind, by dimensionalizing it, we help them to experience emotions. We give them an example of emotions, right? But you have to create that. You have to create mental pictures for the prospect in order to stimulate emotions. Just remember that part of your copy is, right, you're the director in the mind of you're the director of the movie playing in the mind of the prospect. That movie is played with scenes, with images, with pictures, and dimensionalizing things. This is why we're going to get to using, specifics and concrete language, right? Concrete language, specific, measurable, things that are dimensionalized, using dimensionalized and concrete, specific and measurable words, descriptions allow for images which conjure, which trigger those emotions. Really important. When you're thinking about dimensionalized benefits, think about multisensory. Right. And so recognize that you can create images, you can create and stimulate images, pictures, emotions with multiple senses. What do they see? Sounds, touch, right? Taste, smell, right? And obviously this is different for, this is different for depending on the product. There's nothing they might, right? Like when we're talking about business, depending on the business that you're in, they might not, there's nothing to smell. There might not be anything to taste, right? But certainly there's sounds of ding, the new sales notification dinging, right? Your sales team ringing the bell constantly, seeing the things show up in your, the sales notifications, right? Or seeing the chart go up on your dashboard or your tracking software, seeing it being in the green, right? There are things that you can conjure these images better by using multiple senses. And so let me see here. I want to go on to the next one, but before I do, let me see here. So yeah, everything that we're talking about can also be applicable to video ads, VSLs, webinars, everything. Anytime you are communicating copy, you're writing copy, you're right. And like, look, everything we do, let me say this for what it's worth. Everything you do is marketing. Everything you do should be marketing. Everything you do, you should look, the reality is this. You go back to everything that I do. Everything that I do, and as much as I possibly can with my team, is done for a strategic purpose, is done with intention, right? And so it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about persuasion. And in this context, again, remember, it's persuasion is getting your market to see certain things, to believe certain things, to understand certain things, to recognize certain things, to feel certain things, to accept certain things. all of that is persuasion, and it carries the same principles, whether you're doing video sales letters, whether you're doing long form, whether you're doing email, whether you're doing a webinar, whether you're doing a multi-part video sequence. It doesn't matter. There's all at the root of all of that, there should be intention and strategy underneath. You should understand why you're doing, saying, presenting, demonstrating anything and everything. Right. And I would tell you, I tell this, and we're going to get to this tomorrow. And then certainly I know this is going to come up multiple times on the 3-hour Q&A on Monday night. That, like, look, I've asked clients, like, why do you have this little blurb of copy in there? And they say, I don't know. Well, then take it out. Right? If you don't understand the purpose, the aim, if you're not clear on what is it that you're trying to do here, what's the strategy? What's the reason why this is in here? What's the emotion that you're trying to prod? What's the feeling that you're trying to stimulate? What's the belief that you're trying to establish? What's the concern that you're trying to overcome? What are you trying to demonstrate here? Right? If you don't know it, take it out. Take it out. Right? Like, take it out. And we're going to talk about how to make those decisions of what you should be prodding and what you should be doing in just a little bit. But you have to understand that everything is done for a reason. And so how much emotion do you detail? Do you actually throw into the copy without it sounding cliche or overdone? We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Let me see. Joshua said, sometimes when I write about the benefits and I get very specific with the dimensionalized level, it sounds like it comes off with too much hype and too good to be true. How do I make sure I sound more real just to get more specific? We're going to talk about that tomorrow. And so, because what I will tell you is, Joshua, just for everybody, is that, when it comes to dimensionalizing, so number one, hype comes from the words that you use, the way that you express the benefit, the way that you express the claim, right? It comes from word choice. You'll understand how to avoid that hyped up, exaggerated, puffery in your copy so that it doesn't feel at all like copy. Like, look, and let me say this so that you understand, right? Good copy doesn't feel like copy. It doesn't sound like copy. It doesn't read like copy. What most people think of when they think of good copy is not good copy. Right? Especially newer marketers and entrepreneurs, newer folks to the world of direct response and copy, what they think of when they think of copy is not good copy. That what they're thinking of is copy that is filled with adjectives and adverbs, that is bloated, that is really puffery, that is exaggeration. What they're thinking of is copy that is trying to sound exciting by the word choice, the amazing steroid-like explosive way to lose weight. That's not good copy. That's crap copy. That's garbage copy. That's exaggerated copy. That's hype copy, right? That doesn't make good copy. You're going to learn tomorrow what does make good copy and how to choose the right words and phrases and sentence structure so that you never come across as hype. The two things, Joshua, are that, yes, specific measurable outcomes and results. The specific measurable outcome and result needs to be exciting, not the way that you describe it, not the words that you use, not the excessive adjectives, but when you're talking about a specific outcome result, right? That is the specific outcome and result that your prospect wants. That becomes compelling. The key is, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, is it's got to be universal enough to apply to the masses in your market. You want to be careful that you're not saying things that are too specific. Right? Like you're not saying like you walk outside your 4-bedroom colonial home and you send your daughter off to grammar school and you feel confident that you're taking care of your low back pain. Right? Like that's a no-no, because you're talking to people that don't have a colonial, that don't have a daughter, that aren't sending her off to grammar school, that, right? And so it's got to be universal enough to apply to everybody. And that's all in how you describe it, which we're going to cover tomorrow. And so David said, do we create, dimensionalized pain. So what I would say is this, to answer that question, and this is kind of a broad sweeping answer to all questions related to dimensionalized. Copy is driven by specific concrete language, not vague general statements. Vague general statements do not sell, they do not persuade, they do not conjure images, and therefore they do not trigger the mass of emotions. Specific concrete language is what you are after. When you're talking about pain, right? Certainly, the more specific you can be while remaining universal enough to apply to the masses of your audience, the more impactful it's going to be. But vague general statements, right? Like you don't feel good, like you don't make enough money, or you'll feel better, right? You'll enjoy life more, or right, your business will run better. Those are all vague general statements that roll off the back of your prospect because they can't envision it in their mind's eye. And so it doesn't trigger that response. They can't see it. Vague general statements, whether you're talking about the pain or whether you're talking about the outcome, right? Whether you're talking about the symptoms, which we're going to talk about, or whether you are talking about the benefit, the transformation, the result. Specific, concrete language is what you want. You see, let me stop for 1 second and just say this, that what the majority of marketers try to do is they're afraid of narrowing. They're afraid of getting too specific in what it is that they are promising or claiming, because they're afraid that they're going to weed out the masses of people. And so what they do is they, instead of narrowing or making their claims and benefit statements more specific, they widen them. They broaden them in an attempt to speak to as many people as possible. But what you end up doing is you really end up speaking to nobody, because the wider you go, the broader you go in your claim, the more vague and general you have to become. And the more vague and general your claims and promises and benefit statements are, the less impactful they are, meaning the less your prospect can envision it in their mind's eye. And so specifics, concrete language, measurable outcomes are what move people. Measurable, tangible, specific, concrete language. It's not only what they can picture in their mind's eye, but it's believable. Whereas vague general statements are viewed today in marketing, in advertising, in sales as puffery, right? As puffery. And so hope that makes sense. Last question. We're going to get to the core emotion in just a bit. Edward said, regarding the three core persuasion principles we touched on, is your goal to leverage all three of them for each component of your copy, including the headline, the lead, the call to action? No. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that very little today, and then we're going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. No, I'm not saying that you have to appeal to emotion, logic, and identity in every piece of copy, like every chunk of your copy. You have to understand that overall, in your copy, we need to tap into the emotion and prod the emotions. We need to appeal to their identity, and we need to give logical support. You don't have to try to do all three of those in every piece of copy or every chunk of copy, but throughout the whole message, we want to demonstrate, we want to prod emotion. We want to demonstrate how this reinforces identity, character, reputation, and we want to give the logical support. You'll see in just a little bit, Ed, how in the lead, for example, is all emotion. It's all emotion. It is not logical. We don't get into the logical explanation. We don't get into the argument. We don't get into this elaborate proof in the lead. We got to hook the heart first, and then we go into that. And so the point is that in the message, in a persuasive message, you want to prod the emotions, you want to appeal to identity, and you want to give the logical support, not necessarily not in each chunk. And so we're not trying to do all three in the headline, let's say. I want to talk about faux benefits. And faux benefits are, because this is a mistake that I see made often. Faux benefits are a statement or claim which on the surface, it feels like a benefit because we are talking about something that the prospect will experience or can experience, but it's at least one step removed from what the prospect actually wants. So, right, we talked about when I said, like, look, and let me say this as well, that, right, like, I've never seen a marketing campaign not convert well because it had too many benefits. I've never seen a marketing campaign, a piece of copy, not convert well because it had too many benefits. I've only seen campaigns not convert well because they didn't focus enough on benefits. And so at the end of the day, right, what your prospect cares about is what it's going to do for them, what it's going to mean for them, what it's going to change for them, how it's going to improve their life, right? And so we want to have a focus on benefits. We want to drive home benefits constantly. And you're going to see how and where we do that in the flow and whatnot tomorrow. But the thing to understand is that, and we talked about how a feature is a fact about the product or service. When we're talking about any part of the product or service, we're talking about a feature. People don't buy products and services for the features. They buy products and services for what they believe the features will do for them, the benefit. But sometimes you can have what I call a faux benefit, which is we're still talking about what the prospect will experience, but it's at least one step away from what it is that they really want. Meaning it's almost an intermediary before the result that the prospect wants. So let me give you an example. Let's say we were talking about a supplement for losing weight, and we said that this will flush fat from your intestinal tract, right? Like it'll flush fat out from your intestinal tract. That's what you call a faux benefit. It's a faux benefit, just like this is a faux benefit. Your arteries and blood vessels will instantly relax. Let's say we were selling a supplement for lowering blood pressure, right? And we said, when you take this, right, your arteries and blood vessels will instantly relax. This is also an example of a faux benefit. This will make your Facebook ads more attractive. Why are these faux benefits? These are faux benefits because these are one step removed from what it is that the prospect wants. Flushing fat from your intestinal tract, right? If you're interested in a supplement that will help you lose weight, right? Flushing fat from your intestinal tract. Who cares? I don't care about flushing fat from my intestinal tract, right? That's the vehicle by which it works. That's how it helps to, right, to prevent you from absorbing fat, from adding fat, like blah, 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 blah. But I don't care about that. That's not a benefit to me, right? That's a faux benefit. You're still talking in all three of these instances. We're talking about something that the prospect will experience, right? That they'll flush fat from their intestinal tract, that their arteries and blood vessels will relax, that their ads will be more attractive, but it's one step removed from what it is that the prospect cares about, right? It's one step removed from what it is that the prospect cares about. And so you've got to learn to turn faux benefits into real benefits. Meaning what I'm really saying is you got to make sure that you peel back the onion and get to the heart of it, right? So I want you to think about, like, ultimately, I want you to be aware of when you're stating faux benefits, or when you're stating benefits, I want you to ask yourself, is this what the prospect really wants? So the prospect, when they were thinking about a weight loss supplement, were they thinking, I just want to find a supplement that helps flush fat from my intestinal tract? Right? Or I just want what I care about most, I want a supplement for my blood pressure, right? I want a supplement that's going to make my blood vessels and arteries relax, right? Or I want something that's going to make my ads more attractive, right? Is that what they really want? Or is what they're after the result, the byproduct of each of these? So David said, right, but don't you need faux benefits to build a bridge from the mechanism to the outcome they want? Sometimes, right? Sometimes you can use these, like you certainly, when we are explaining, let's say, It's a great question. I love the question. When we are explaining the way that let's say we've got a supplement to help people lose fat, right, to lose weight, and part of that is right because of the formulation. Our formulation, our formulation works on three mechanisms in the body, three different kind of systems in the body. And one of those things that this supplement does, that this formulation does, is it helps to flush fat from your intestinal tract, right? And so that's what we call a faux benefit, or what you could really say. Another way to think about this is it's an incomplete benefit. We haven't reached the destination yet, right? This will flush fat from your intestinal tract, preventing your body from absorbing fat so that you blah, 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 can eat to your heart's content without gaining any more weight. Now that is the benefit. That becomes the complete benefit. But the flushing fat from your intestinal tract is a faux benefit. It's incomplete, right? We haven't gotten to the payoff, the real payoff that they're interested in. And so this is something that you need to be aware of, because like what David is saying is sometimes you can use these faux benefits to as a bridge, as one step before you get to the actual payoff. Even like, right, your arteries and blood vessels will instantly relax, right? So that your heart doesn't need to work as hard, experiencing a nice, healthy decline in your blood pressure that lasts for hours or something like that. That end part is the real benefit that they care about. They don't care about the arteries and vessels will instantly relax. It's almost, another way of saying faux benefit, incomplete benefit, is these are really vehicle benefits. These are this is how the thing works, right? But what is the result of making your ads more attractive, right? You'll get more, it makes your ads more attractive so you get more clicks, so you get more visitors, so you get more prospects into your campaign at a lower cost, right? Allowing you to pay for even more and more traffic. That's the benefit of making your ads more attractive, right? And so simple to take what David said, which he is really spot on, right? You could take these faux benefits, right? What I'm saying here is not that you want to get rid of these, is not that you want to eliminate these, is that you want to make sure that you go to the end benefit, that you give the payoff, that you give the result of this, the result that the prospect cares about. This is incomplete. And so you can turn these into complete, legit benefits, right? With simple statements like, so you can, so you will, so you see XYZ, which means you, right? And right. So when we say like, flush fat from your intestinal tract so that your body doesn't absorb fat and you can eat till your, so that your body absorbs, 1/10 the amount of fat so you can eat till your heart's content without gaining any more weight. This flushes fat from your intestinal tract, which means that you can eat until your heart's content without having to worry about adding fat, right? This flushes fat from your intestinal tract and allows you to eat till your heart's content without ever gaining an ounce of fat. See, all of these allow you to turn that faux benefit into the real benefit. And so it's important that you understand you want to focus on the payoff. You want to focus on what the prospect cares about, right? And so you have to go back. You have to look at this, understand these, and you have to ask yourself, is this really the end result that the prospect cares about? Is this really the end result that the prospect cares about? And so, always going back to this idea of what does the prospect care about, of what do they think about, of what do they want, of what matters to them, of what would they say to somebody, right? Like if they were talking about the problem and the solution that they want. And so hope that makes sense. Let me see here. And then Yes. So you see that? So Scott, you were spot on ahead of me, right? So that, so you can, so you will, which means you, and all those, right? My point in sharing this with you, just as this foundational principle, we're still in foundational principles, is that, right? You got to focus on the end result that your prospect cares about, not the intermediary, not the vehicle, not the faux benefit, not the incomplete benefit. Like, right? Like at the end of the day, you've got to get to the heart of what it is that they want, because nobody cares about flushing fat from their intestinal tract. Nobody cares about relaxing the arteries and blood vessels in their cardiovascular system. They care about the next step. They care about what those things produce. And so, let me see. So we'll come back to that. And we'll come back to that. Okay. Correct, David. You could say, right, and it's a subtle point, but even that, for those of you guys, and this is still, like I said, just foundational stuff. So we're not even like, we're just scratching the surface. But for many of you, right, the reality is just turning these things into taking them to the next step is powerful in itself, because you're focusing on what the prospect cares about instead of focusing on the one step removed or two step removed, benefits. And so let me move this over here. And so I want to talk about contrast for 1 second, because this is in the context of benefits. And you're going to see all these principles at play when we get into the nitty gritty details, like the nitty gritty word choice, sentence structure, all that, like the heart and soul of this workshop really tomorrow. I want you to understand, we're going to be bringing this in. When we talk about benefits, right, you have to understand the power of contrast. The power, there's contrast needs to be used in copy. Contrast, just for definition, right? This is the photographers understand this. Contrast is the state of being significantly different from something else. Significantly different from something else. You can see the difference in contrast between these two images. So if you can see on your screen, the black box and the little circle, and then you can see the black box over here and the little circle. And you can see the stark difference in contrast between these two, right? The strikingly different than something else. It's important that you understand contrast, because every solution is made more valuable in the context of the problem it solves, right? Every solution is made more valuable in the context of the problem that it solves. And the more severe the problem is, the more valuable the solution is perceived to be. The more severe the problem is. This is why, going back to what we talked about earlier about the buckets of problems, and why the unresolved distress, especially a bleeding neck problem, is much easier to sell. It's also easier to sell at a higher price point. Why? Because solutions are only as valuable as the severity of the problems that they solve. The more severe the problem, the more valuable the solution is. A great example of this is, and I recently talked to my own team about this. A great example of this is if we were selling a bandage, $1,000 bandage, and we were talking to somebody who had a cut on their leg, and that cut on their leg, they felt was a superficial, cut, was a flesh wound, if you will. Right. And now we have a $1,000 bandage. Well, the likelihood of us selling them that $1,000 bandage is really slim to none. But if we showed them, in being truthful, if we showed them that wasn't a flesh wound, that cut on their leg actually nicked an artery, right, and that there is a possibility of them bleeding out, and the single most efficient, most effective way to ensure that they do not bleed out and that they stop the bleeding is with this bandage. Now it makes that $1,000 bandage that much more valuable. It makes the price almost seem insignificant when it's presented in the context of this could save your life. But before, when that problem was perceived to be a flesh wound, then there was no way in heck that somebody was going to spend $1,000 on that on that bandage. And so my point in sharing this with you is that we're always, we are presenting contrast, even when we are talking about benefits, especially when we're dealing with somebody that's got an unresolved distress, that type of problem, right? We want to show them the solution and the outcome in context of what it is that they're dealing with, in context of the problems that they have, in context of the struggle that they have, in context of the path that they're on and where it's leading. So we want to contrast the experience that they can have with your solution compared to the experience that they've had and are having up to this point, and what they're likely to have if they don't take action and leverage this solution. Contrast, right, in your copy is enormously valuable. Contrast. We want to contrast life. In essence, we want to contrast life without the solution, right? Like, and this really applies, and you're going to see this tomorrow. This really applies much more so to when you're dealing with prospects that have a problem that falls into the unresolved distress bucket, right? You want to show the solution in contrast to the pain, to the difficulty, to the frustration, to the anxiety, to the fear, to all the negative that they're experiencing right now, because the solution in contrast with that makes the solution that much more valuable, right? Like, never again will you feel humiliated when you take your shirt off at the beach. Instead, you'll notice women looking and men admiring as you confidently strut around with a six-pack. This might be goofy copy that I just wrote just for this, but you're seeing it's the contrast here, right? Instead of simply just saying, right, you'll see women looking around, men admiring as you confidently strut around with a six-pack, you're presenting more contrast, and that contrast makes the solution pop. Right? Just like in an image, that contrast can make the things that you want to pop. When you don't have contrast, nothing pops, right? Like it almost becomes flat, right? And when you want something to pop in an image, right, when you want it to stand out, when you want it to be significant, you add contrast. That's the same thing that we do in copy. And contrast in this context is the negative of the existing problem against the positive of the solution. It's the negative of the present compared to the positive of the future. And so really important. And so, okay, let's go on. And I want to cover quickly some terms and definitions. I know that I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because as we get more into some of these things, and especially tomorrow when we get to the tactical, nitty gritty stuff, and I'm referring back to certain terms, I want to make sure that you guys and gals understand. And so the first term that I just want to cover is hook and theme. So when you hear me talk about the hook and theme, right, what we're really talking about is the idea or angle behind the marketing message. So it's the idea behind the marketing message. It's the idea behind the headline. A hook and a headline are two different things. The headline is how you communicate the hook, the theme, the idea. Behind every headline is a hook, idea, theme. It might be ordinary, it might be plain vanilla, right? But the headline and the hook are two different things, right? So there's a number of different ways to communicate the same underlying idea, right? So you can have one idea and then you can choose a variety of different words in the headline to communicate that idea. But the hook, the theme, the idea, is the idea behind the marketing message. And what we're looking for is an idea that gets attention, that creates interest. And I'm going to explain how we do that. What are the elements that we look for, and some simple ways to develop these hooks. But that's the hook in the theme. So I'm not talking about, when I talk about hook theme, I'm not talking about the hook or theme for your product. I'm not talking about excuse me, the big idea for your product, like you have a disruptive app and blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the idea behind your marketing message, the idea that you are presenting in your headline, the idea, the narrative, the theme that you are basing your marketing message around. That's what I mean when I say hook and theme. The campaign lead is just the first 300, 400, 500 words of your marketing message. Don't get caught up in the exact number. It is it's the start of your campaign. Whether you are using a video sales letter, whether you're using a webinar, whether you're using a long form sales letter, in any piece of communication, whether you're giving a speech, a presentation, whatnot, in every presentation, there is a lead, right? The idea of the lead comes from journalism. In journalism, maybe you've heard the expression, don't bury the lead. The idea of burying the lead is you bury the most exciting part, the most important part of a story, of an essay in the middle or towards the bottom. They say, don't bury the lead, right? What they're talking about is like, don't bury the most valuable, most enticing, most compelling part. Start with it, lead with it. That's why it's called the campaign lead. And the campaign lead serves a very specific role. What you want to do in the opening of your marketing message, in the opening of your copy, is critical. I'll tell you that that in many cases, look, and I don't want to say anything that could seem contradictory to what I said earlier about the offer, but 80% of the sales determined by 80% of response is determined by the lead. The lead consists of the headline, the deck copy, the headline complex, whatever, if you're using a pre-head, headline, subhead, whatever. And right, the first 350, 400, 500 or so words is critical, right? It's make or break. It's make or break because ultimately many people will never even get to your offer if you don't have a good lead. The lead determines whether you turn attention into engagement. Right? Whether you turn attention, right? It's one thing to get attention. It's another thing to turn that attention into engagement. So, right, many of you that have video sales letters, when you look at the analytics and you see that there is a huge drop off in the first 20 seconds, right? Like where 70% of your visitors are gone. Well, that doesn't mean you didn't get attention. That means you didn't translate that attention into engagement. And so the lead, the first 350, 400, 500 or so words is there to create that engagement. I'm going to show you how we do that. The offer, the offer is what does the prospect get and what do they need to give to get it? Now, I want to point something out here, and I want you to listen to me. We're going to unpack this in a little bit and get more in depth in this with this, but I want you to listen to me, please. This is important, okay? So what most people do not, what most marketers don't understand when we say the offer is what does the prospect get and what do they need to give to get it? That we're not just talking about what do they need to give? They need to give $1,000, and what do they get? They get DVDs and or whatever, not DVDs. They get videos, DVDs. Shows you my age. They get Betamax. They get videos, and they get cheat sheets, and they get this, and they get this, and they get this, and they get this. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, yes, what do they need to give in terms of dollars and cents, of course, right? And what do they get? Yes, in terms of deliverables. But we're also talking about what is the payoff? Like, what's the result? What's the outcome that they get? What's the change? What's the life improvement? What's the alleviation of pain, or what pain gets alleviated, right? Those are all the things that they get. Is there any kind of guarantee that they get, right? Like assurance, right? And then, and this is the important part that I want you to understand, a big part of the offer in terms of what do they need to give to get it is not just money, but is time, is effort, right? Energy, like what do they need to do? And so that is an important distinction that a lot of marketers completely miss. That part of making, and we're going to cover this, that part of making a truly irresistible proposition is that the perception of what the prospect needs to give compared to what it is that they're going to get and how quickly they're going to get it and how easy they're going to get it, right? Like that perception, we have to control that. right? And you're going to understand what I mean when we get into the details of putting together this one piece that most people neglect. But you have to understand that there's more than just money that they're giving. There's their time, energy. Like, what am I going to have to do? Am I going to have to be outside for 8 hours a day to right? It's one thing to say, part of this offer, you'll get a green, lush, magnificent lawn that your neighbors will comment about. They'll be talking about, right? You'll feel pride of ownership, blah, 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 right? And you get this bag of fertilizer, and you get this, this spreader, and you get this, and you get this. But it's another thing to then like have the prospect see like, all right, I got to give, great. I only got to give $50 for all this, which is great. But then it's going to take me 8 hours of my time to do this. It's physical manual labor that I'm going to have to do outside. It's going to take a long time for me to see results. There's a small likelihood of me seeing results, right? Like, and so I could put in all this effort. And so, right, I'm giving really, I'm giving up kind of risk, if you will, like I'm risking, right? See, there's a lot more that goes into understanding what the prospect needs to give to get the result. We have to address that. But that's what we're talking about when we say the offer. The offer is how we frame all of that. The offer is how we present not only the deliverables and the benefits of those deliverables and the price and the terms and the guarantee, right? And any kind of premiums, but also how attractive is the solution that they're going to get. Like how attractive, how easy, how simple, how quick, how straightforward is the solution that they're going to get. Because as you'll understand in just a little bit, because, right, if you've got a crappy solution, one that requires a lot of work, one that requires a lot of time, one that has a steep learning curve, one that has a low likelihood of success, you can put together all the deliverables in the world with a ton of benefits, right? A great, great price, ridiculous terms, right? A tremendous guarantee, and you're going to get a low volume of takers. Why? Because the solution isn't attractive, because it requires them to give of their time, of their effort, of their energy, of risk, right? And so you're going to understand that, but that's the offer. Then we've got the campaign argument. Campaign argument is really the body copy. This is where we're actually giving the logical support. This is where we're making claims, we're giving proof, we're giving evidence, we're giving support, and we're ultimately leading to what we call, which we're going to talk about, the buying belief, the one belief that you need your prospects to have before you present your offer. So the campaign argument is the body. Think of your campaign like this. Let's do it. Let's do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. Never good when I go into the little whiteboard pen thingy. But let's do this. I want you to think of your campaign, and you're going to see this. You're going to see this. Let me do this with the mouse. You're going to see this in a little bit. This is your marketing campaign. This is the campaign. This is how I break down every campaign. Follows this simple little timeline. This is selling. This is marketing. This is 75% of the campaign. This is 25% of the campaign. This is where we introduce the product. This is where we present your offer. All of this right here is the marketing. This is where we're leading the prospect to want your product or service before we ever even offer it to them. In here, we've got the beginning part. This is the lead over here, right? Which makes up the body of the campaign, of your copy. We've got the campaign argument. And this is where we are ultimately leading your prospect to what we call buying belief, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, that sets up the sale for your product or service. And so when I say the campaign argument, I'm talking about this portion, the body copy of your message. And so with that, back here, Unique selling proposition. So let's cover this real quick. I've covered this so many times before. I'm just going to breeze through this for those of you that maybe haven't heard me talk about this before. Unique selling proposition, a USP, is a term that was first coined by direct response legend Rossa Reeves. A unique selling proposition is the simplest way to think about this, because there's the unique selling proposition and there's the unique mechanism. These two are not at all the same thing. They're not at all similar. So a unique selling proposition is when your product or service offers a unique benefit compared to the other products and services that you are competing with. So when there is a unique benefit, when there is a unique promise that you can make, a unique benefit that comes with your product or service, that you would say that you have a USP. So simply think about the USP as a unique benefit. What benefit do you offer, and only you offer, that your competitors do not offer, right? What benefit that your prospects care about, right? It has to be what your prospects care about. It has to be what they want. Right? What unique benefit does your product or service offer? Here's the reality. The reality is that today USPs are rare. People still talk about what's your unique selling proposition, and they've mangled it, right? A real USP is when you offer a benefit that none of your competitors offer. The reality is that today it is rare. Today, USPs are typically only associated with disruptive products or services. So I've talked about when like Uber first came on the scene, right? They had a USP at the time, right? It was the first time that you could hail a ride with your phone. You didn't need to pay with cash, right? Like at the time, you didn't need to tip. You could feel more secure. You didn't need to wait in the taxi lines, right? There was a USP. Today, they no longer have a USP thanks to other ride sharing services like Lyft or whatnot. But that was at the time a unique benefit. Same thing with when Netflix went from when they moved away from the DVDs and Blu-rays and went all online. They had a unique selling proposition, right? Where you didn't need to leave your home and you could rent a movie. There was no need for you to return the movie. So there were no late fees. And then it became, right, you had an endless library of videos to choose from. You could play a movie in seconds, one flat fee, blah, 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 blah. Today, of course, we know that none of those things are a unique selling proposition anymore. Again, a USP is rare. When you do have one, great, cool, use it. We're going to use it in the copy. We're going to highlight it, right? But the reality is that for most of us, having a USP is going to be unlikely. And so how do we differentiate then if we don't have a unique benefit? In other words, we still have to differentiate. You heard me say earlier that what people care about, what gets attention, is different, right? People want to know what's different. They're not looking for more of the same. They want to know what is different. What's different about what you're talking about? What's different about the way that your thing works? What's different about the way that your product produces the result, right? They don't want more of the same. They want different. And so, right, if we don't have a different benefit or outcome or result that we can claim for our product or service, because we don't have a USP, how do we differentiate? We differentiate with a unique mechanism. A unique mechanism, and we're gonna talk about this ever so slightly, because I talk about this all the time, all over the place, that you guys can find. But unique mechanism is really how your product or service works. So the unique mechanism is the unique process, formula, component, part, stage, or stages, approach, system behind your product or service. The way to think about it is the unique mechanism is how does your product or service work to produce the result, right? And we're saying uniquely, how does it uniquely work? What's different about the way that your product or service works to produce the result, the outcome, the promise, the payoff compared to every other method out there? So the unique the unique selling proposition is a unique benefit. The unique mechanism, it does not require a unique benefit. It allows you to differentiate by taking the same benefit others are promising, but it allows you to say, I have a different way of giving you that, and that different way is superior to all of the other ways. That's the unique mechanism. It is how your product or service works. So right now, to just start to think about this for a second, and we're going to unpack this a little bit in just a bit, is that like you claim that your product or service produces a result. How? Why is it able to produce that result? What does it do? How does it work to produce that result? I'm not asking you right now to like give me copy. I'm asking you, I'm saying that as a way for you to begin to think about that, right? To begin to think about how does your product or service, if you have a training approach to help people build muscle, how does it work? Why does your training approach work? What is it about your training approach that causes it to build muscle for people so efficiently, so effectively, so effectively in such a short period of time? Right. And so how does it work? If you've got a supplement that helps to reduce cholesterol, well, how does it work? What is it about the supplement? Is it one nutrient? Is it a combination of nutrients? Is it the dosage in there? Is it the combination? Is it the combination of the format, the type of nutrients in there? Is it the way that it is encapsulated so that it goes through digestion, your digestive process, right? Like, what is it about the way that your product or service works to produce the result? That is extremely important. And we're going to get into understanding that in just a little bit, because this is going to become the foundation of what we do. Like, right, all the tactical stuff that we're going to talk about tomorrow, all the word choice, right, all the sentence structure, all the flow, all the gambits, all the moves, all the framing, right? It's done with a purpose, right, based on this foundational stuff, right? And so that's why I want you to understand this. And then we've got the catalyst. And catalyst, you're not going to hear me talk about all that much. But the way that I want you to think of the catalyst is, I want you to think of a catalyst as something that is happening, or has recently happened, or is about to happen, that has either opened up a new opportunity, or has made it so that the mechanism can work to produce the result. So let me say that again. So catalyst is something that has either recently happened, it is happening now, or it is about to happen, that opens up a new opportunity, and or is the reason why the unique mechanism is so appropriate, so effective right now, right? And so a catalyst, perfect example of a catalyst, right, is when I said earlier, not a perfect example, but an example of a catalyst is the change in the iOS tracking, right? That is a catalyst that is created. There are many promotions happening right now in the world of tracking, in the world of reporting, in the world of pixels, in the world of media buying, that is based on this catalyst of, right, there's now this change. Apple made this change. That change has caused XYZ disruption. And because of that, you now need element OP. That's a catalyst. Another example of a catalyst is like when in the world of, let's say, financial investing, when a catalyst might be such and such company just announced an upcoming IPO on, whatever, November 1st or something like that. Right? That's an occurrence. That's something that is about to happen. That creates an opportunity. That opportunity in this little example is to get in on potentially an IPO, or, right, we might link that catalyst to lots of companies now are going to IPO because of blah, blah, blah. Could be a law being changed. Right. That could be in the world of alternative health. There could be the legality, could be, right, this company is now about to release this new supplement that, right. And thanks to this change in a law that now legalized this particular, supplement or whatnot, that change in the law is the catalyst behind this new opportunity. In this context, when I say new opportunity, I mean the opportunity to get this supplement that at one point you couldn't get. Now, you could also have a catalyst, just to show you, and not all the time, like the catalyst Scott said, a window of opportunity. That's correct. That's a great way to look at it. It's something is happening, or something is about to happen, or something very recently happened that has created a window of opportunity, to take advantage of something, or something has happened, or is happening right now, or is about to happen, that is creating a new need that didn't exist before. So when people were talking about the impending iOS update, that's a catalyst that was about to happen, right? And talking about you got to make changes to your tracking. If not, once this thing goes into effect on XYZ date, you're dead in the water with your tracking. That's another example of a catalyst. Sometimes a catalyst exists. Like sometimes we can find or spot a catalyst, not all the time. So you're going to see that there are many things that we're going to talk about. There are many techniques and tactics and strategies that don't apply in every situation, right? Copy isn't, like I said at the very beginning, there's not this one size fits all, every circumstance, every single thing applies to every single product or service in every single circumstance. It does not work that way. But I'm sharing this with you because you're going to hear me talk about leveraging a catalyst. A catalyst is a great way, especially when the catalyst is about to happen, or recently happened and it's about to cause damage. Catalyst is a great way to create what's called engagement urgency. Engagement urgency is really another way of saying it is when you give your prospect the reason to engage with your marketing now, meaning you prevent them from procrastinating on engaging with your marketing, right? How many times have you, maybe I'm the only one, but how many times have you come across a marketing piece for something that you were potentially interested in, but there was no reason for you to stop exactly what you were, stop what you were doing and engage with that marketing piece right now. And so you saved it for later. You put it into your to-do list manager. You just saved it as a bookmark or whatnot for later on. And then you forgot about it. And you never went back to it. Right. And so there are steps that we can take to create these, to create this engagement urgency, to give prospects a reason to engage now. I'm not saying this is different from offer urgency, which is giving them a reason to respond to the offer now. I'm talking about giving them a reason to engage with the marketing now. You've got to recognize, and this is an important thing for you guys to just file away, that you got to recognize that, don't ever underestimate the task at hand. Don't think that just because somebody clicks on your ad and comes to your page that now they're going to engage with your marketing. You don't know how many clients, how many students I've had come into E5 coaching, and they say like, the amount we get, call it 1,000 clicks to our VSL page, and we've got 680 people engaging with the video. Right? Meaning, 350 people out of, 35% don't even engage with the video. They don't even press play on the video, let alone consume the whole video and whatnot. And so we can't take these things for granted. And so think of a catalyst, something that is going on right now, something that recently happened, or something that is about to happen, as an opportunity to create that, that engagement urgency. As well, it gives justification in the mind of the prospect for why now is the time to act on this, right? Why now is the time to engage, and why now is the time to act on this, because of this catalyst. When you have things like, for example, there's a law is about to pass that's gonna outlaw XYZ nutrient. And so now is the time for you to get this before it's illegal, right? Understand, like, that's extremely powerful, because that gives a justification for why they need to act now. It also gives a justification for the fear of missing out, right? There's a reason behind it. And so a catalyst can be used in that way. And so let me see here. And so with that, we're going to stop and we are going to take a break for lunch. But before we do, let me just go through and see if there are any questions. Can you show a catalyst for a supplement or e-commerce? Sure. Right? Like, don't think of it. It's not industry, again, like I said, with the supplement, something was, something at one point was illegal. Now it's no longer illegal. Right. So you can get the supplement, or, whatever, a pharmaceutical company just decided that they were going to get into a natural supplement, blah, 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 blah. And now they're creating XYZ product. It could be something going before Congress in terms of alternative health, in terms of supplements. It could be, a study is about to be published about a particular nutrient. And when it does, the price is going to likely skyrocket because it's happened 6 times before. And every time the price quadrupled. Here's your opportunity to get it now. That's, catalyst. E-commerce, it really just depends on it depends on what it is that you're selling. But certain, like, I have a friend who is in the survival business. He's got like a big survival thing, lots of stuff. I mean, there's tons of catalysts, like, you know what I mean? Like, that could be used, like, things like, again, gun laws, things like an impending event that could cause an issue with, electricity, or who knows, that kind of, but so sure. Don't think of it as it's only available in industries. It's all about, has something recently happened, or something happening now, or something about to happen that is creating a new opportunity for that they care, a new opportunity to benefit, right? Or is creating a need for them to take action to prevent losing something. And so hope that answers that question. So Edward says, what exactly are the differences between faux benefits and functional benefits? So the way to think about this, and it's a great question, Ed, I love the way that your mind works with this. So I would say that they're both benefits. They're both talking about something that the prospect wants, but they are a functional benefit is something that the prospect wants. It is something that they care about, but it's just not dimensionalized. Whereas a faux benefit is talking about something that the prospect will experience, but it's not something that they care about, that they talk about, that's top of mind, right? It's likely in the mechanical pencil example that somebody wants, like, I'm a writer, man, I want a pencil that's easy to hold, that's comfortable to hold, right? That's something, right? But but if we said, right, it is it aligns with your thumb joint or something like that. See how it's one step removed from, they're not thinking about, I want a mechanical pencil that aligns with my thumb joint. It's still one step removed, right? It aligns with your thumb joint so that you're comfortable holding this pencil, so that you can wake up and write for hours, blah, 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 and know that, and enjoy knowing that you're never going to have to worry about pain again or something like that. That's the difference. Hopefully that makes sense. Think of, again, the faux benefits as it on the surface, it seems like a benefit because we're talking about something the prospect is going to experience, but it's not really what they care about. That's not what they care about. The functional benefit is something that they care about. It's just, it has no dimension. It's flat. And so it's superficial. And so hope that answers that question. Let me see here. In one of my organizations is a platform hosting psychotherapy training programs with a variety of leading experts. So it seems like 2 marketing efforts. What is unique about my platform, and then unique about the actual program and presenter? If you could speak on this. Not really sure what you mean by that. That may be a great question for you and I to talk, for you to get on the mic on and let's talk it through on Monday. The platform. Yeah, that's definitely a question for us to unpack on Monday. Two marketing efforts. What is unique about my platform? And then, because I'm not really sure I understand what you mean by platform in this context. And speaking to you will be much easier. Guillermo said, can you use a catalyst to show how a competitor's solution is no longer viable and the way to go? Sure. I would say, and we're going to talk about this a bit tomorrow, but I would show the way to think about this, Guillermo, is the answer is yes to your question, but I wouldn't attack a particular competitor. What I would show is that if your method doesn't leverage XYZ because of this catalyst, it's no longer going to be nearly as effective. And that's why you want to leverage XYZ based on this catalyst, right? So in other words, you're rather than attacking a particular competitor, you are establishing the fact that, right, like because of this catalyst, if the solution that you're currently using or contemplating doesn't have LMNOP, it's no longer going to be, it's no longer going to give you the result that you want or nearly as well as you want. And that's why you want XYZ. XYZ is critical now because of catalyst. And so hope that answers that question. Diego said, we're pushing a new product into our market called the Power Hook formula. We're telling people that since ads have been getting harder and harder due to the digital Armageddon, this is going to make it way easier to get higher CTRs, ROAS. Just 2 to 5 lines of copy in their ads will make the difference. Our CTRs are very high, but conversion are still low. What could be causing an effect like this? Just the offer, maybe increase awareness. Love the training, Todd. See you in a month from now. So Diego, that's also a question for really Monday. Right. So there's a lot of things that's like a deep question, right? So in other words, you're getting clicks, but people aren't buying. And so what is the cause of why people aren't buying? We can look at the positioning of the copy on Monday and we'll break it down and I'll show you, what is, or what could be, playing the role for you. It's easy to fix. And so you got it. Edward said, is the catalyst a component of the proclamation prediction lead? No, not necessarily, Edward. So proclamation prediction lead. So you could have a prediction lead that's like, I predict that, crypto is going to crash before the end of 2022, let's just say, as an example. That's a prediction lead. That doesn't necessarily, there's no catalyst there. Right. I might say like all my indicators show that it's going to crash. And I might say that I've been tracking the 5 most popular, investor metrics. And based on that and my patterns and my charts, I'm predicting that it's going to crash, blah, blah, blah. In fact, there's a, what's his name? Harry Dent is really in the financial space, does that like often. And so that's not necessarily a catalyst. You also, that there is no catalyst in that as well. Now you could, and this is where I say nuance and not right. You certainly could tie a prediction to a catalyst. So you could have a catalyst, like you could have a because catalyst, because this new law, because this change, because XYZ was just announced, because blah, 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 blah is about to go public, right? I predict that crypto will crash, right? Here's how smart investors stand to make, 500% gains while others get stripped of their digital currency, wealth or whatever, right? So you could tie the two together, but you don't have to have a catalyst to have a prediction type of lead or appeal as well, right? So you can have a prediction proclamation without a catalyst. You can also have a catalyst without a proclamation prediction. So you don't have to, you could have a catalyst and the such and such announces the legalization of this weird nutrient, opportunity for arthritis sufferers to finally get pharmaceutical grade relief from their joint pain. That's not a prediction. That's a catalyst with a promise. And so there's not necessarily one lead type that is appropriate for the catalyst. Let me see this. Let me cruise through the last two questions, and then I'll let you guys go to lunch so I don't fall too far behind. So Peter, what's up, buddy? We've done 10 interviews with clients recently. We have asked all of them why they chose us instead of competitors, and all of them say we are down to earth, authentic. So we make them feel that they can do it. How and where should we use this in our copy? So we'll talk about that tomorrow. In terms of how you use that, right? Like the way that what I wouldn't do is, just to give you a taste, is what I wouldn't do is say, we're down to earth, we're authentic, we're real, like we're just like you, kind of, like I wouldn't say that. That's not at all. I would demonstrate that through voice and through what you say and don't say. So you're going to understand how, right? Like word choice, phraseology, what you choose to include and what you choose to exclude demonstrate voice and character. And so, right, like what, when people try to do things like they try to convey, we're just down to earth, regular people, like simple, regular people. And what they do is they say, I want people to think that we're regular, down to earth, authentic people. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say in my copy, I am a regular, down to earth, authentic individual, just like you. That's no. You're going to demonstrate it through voice, through what it is that we're going to talk about tomorrow. It's kind of like the moment that I hear somebody say, yeah, I'm really, I'm humble. I'm immediately like, humble. Like I just never heard, right? So it's demonstrated. They'll demonstrate the humility, right? It's done implicitly, not explicitly. And so you'll see how that's all about what you say and how you say it in your copy and what you don't say in your copy. And I'm going to show you that when we use disarming phrases in the copy. And we're going to get into that. That's really fun, actual stuff. And so Ollie said, lead question. Might be a question for Monday. How would a lead change when it's for warm email traffic versus cold traffic? What are the main differences that would allow one to scale? And would you have two different marketing messages for both? That is for Monday. Save that for Monday. And you and I'll talk that through. That's also easy. And so let me see here. Yeah. More humble. We're fantastically humble. And we care about everybody except our S-bag competitors. Yeah, we try harder. That works when you're a huge, big brand. There you go. All right. So we are going to take a 1 hour lunch break. We're going to be back here, same thing. So there's going to be a countdown timer on here. So it's 12:50 right now. We're going to come back 1:50, and man, we have not even scratched the surface yet. And so let me just see something. We're about to get into the research and decisions. I can't even believe that we are just getting to the second section. The second section. So I'm going to cruise, man. We're going to really pick up the pace, but this is why I said it could be a 3-day, event for sure. But go enjoy yourselves, eat something good, eat something light. Don't overdo it, because I want you to pay attention, rock solid attention. And so we will be back here in 1 hour at 1:50. And so I will see you then.